Yo, what is up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of Dostcast. मेरा नाम है Vinamre Kasana. If you have not subscribed to the podcast yet, make sure you do because we release new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. तो उसको आप मिस करना बिल्कुल नहीं चाहोगे. आज की कॉन्वर्सेशन भी ऐसी है जिसको आप मिस करना बिल्कुल नहीं चाहोगे क्योंकि हमारे जो गेस्ट हैं उनका नाम है अर्चित पुरी. ही इज द होस्ट ऑफ द नान करी पॉडकास्ट, हिंदुस्तान का टॉप रेटेड फूड पॉडकास्ट. A lot of research goes into it. Archit is a fanatic for food and it really shows in the depth and the quality that he brings to the podcast. ठीक है, ये तो एक बात हो गई. दूसरी बात ये, he also writes essays for ST and Mint. तीसरी बात ये हो गई कि भाई साहब यहाँ पे बैठे हम 3 घंटे खाने की, तो चलो एक बात हो गई. विम हॉफ से लेके कोल्ड शावर से लेके तालिब तक, मतलब जितने भी वो वाले होते हैं ना इंटेलेक्चुअल टच पॉइंट्स जिसपे इंडियन आदमी बोलता है वाह यार क्या मजा आ गया, वो सारी बातें कवर कर ली हम लोगों ने. एंड ही इज अ फैंटास्टिक कॉन्वर्सेशनलिस्ट. आई थिंक यू विल डिस्कवर इनसाइट्स अबाउट फूड एंड री एग्जामिन योर स्टेपल फूड्स इन अ वे दैट यू हैव नॉट डन बिफोर. ठीक है, सो द एपिसोड विद अर्चित पुरी begins in 3, 2, 1. All right, so right before this conversation officially started, you were talking about your distaste for big food. You know, big food companies. Thoda mic, if you can just be closer to the mic or just get it closer to you. I know for a fact that this Ramdev ki kaun si company, Patanjali.
Right.
They advertise healthy biscuits and I've read the back. They've got emulsifiers. They've got all the 24, 25 different names for sugar, preservatives, all of that.
Right.
I think the misleading health tag of Ramdev as a health guru is just makes people believe कि ये biscuits लेना या ये फिर ये products लेना, I'm doing something for my health. Maybe the placebo works, but I know that they're just using the same manufacturing that Britannia uses or Parle uses.
Right. So what's
so मैंने ये comment करा, आप इसके बारे में क्या further comment करना चाहेंगे?
Thoughts?
आपके thoughts क्या हैं सर इस बारे में?
Thoughts हैं कि morality doesn't scale.
Oh.
So when you are producing, say, food at a large scale, then you have to optimize for certain metrics, which is revenue.
Right.
If you're producing food as a family business, or like, say, not a family business, say, if you're just producing at a small scale, if you are putting your hands onto the food, खुद से तुम बना रहे हो, then there is some level of, there is only an upper limit to how much you can lie or be deceitful. But when you're in a large company, you just want to keep your job. So and to keep your job, you have to aim for certain metrics, and those metrics do not involve having good ingredients. Like one of those metrics is not to have good healthy ingredients. It is to sell more.
These are cheap mics, my friends. Okay.
But, no, it's good. Like it breaks the ice to shove mics into each other's faces.
It's just क्या कर सकते हैं? It's just become a meme. Anyway, so with handicraft businesses, yes. But I've been watching Shark Tank as well, and you really can't scale handy. जैसे बोलते हैं ना, handmade biscuits हैं जी, ये हैं वो हैं. You really can't scale those. So I understand, like, it's a difficult decision. Like, how can you scale healthy? Like, maybe I know one company that does it very well. क्या नाम है उनका यार? Fids Up. Have you had their bars?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, so they have kind of made it work. They use these super Gen Z friendly packaging, bright orange, bright green, moringa bars देते हैं वो, cow colostrum वगैरह ये सब चीज़ें देते हैं. But even then, like it isn't like a household brand, but I think they've got it right. Beyond that, you host the Naan Curry podcast, which is on hiatus right now. You're going to have new seasons. I listened to it. I was surprised, blown away by the sheer amount of research. We've been following each other on Instagram and, other places for a while.
Right.
Most people are pretty, like लोग बात करते हैं food podcast. Oh, आप तो fit लगते हो, आप तो बहुत खाने, because हम लोग कल करने वाले थे podcast, and then वो नहीं हो पाया because I went climbing, and then I saw a story. You're like out there in some market eating कुछ meaty सी, क्या? What were you drinking?
I was drinking garam doodh.
Garam doodh.
Not meetha.
अच्छा.
No sugar. Yeah.
What is your, like, why milk? Did you not? Because I remember when I grew up, I just developed a disgust for milk. How are you so in cahoots with milk still?
I don't know. I enjoy the taste of it, which is as simple as that. Or in other words, ऐसे ही sexy लग रहा है. which is my motto to do a lot of things in life.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the taste of it. And recently I've read on the health benefits of it as well.
Yeah.
Especially A2 Desi Cow Milk.
Okay.
Yeah.
जो जिन कंटेनर्स पे लिखा होता है A2 देसी काउ मिल्क, so not your Nestle A+ milk, not that.
Not that. So when the milk revolution came to India, we optimized for more milk to be produced, which involved using Jersey cows, which are not native to India.
Okay, so we
crossbred cows. Now it is known that their milk is not as healthy as Desi cow milk. And there is this thing Nassim Taleb ka called the Lindy effect. I don't know the exact definition of it, but it talks about how you should use and consume things which have been time tested for a long period of time, because if they were bad, then evolution would have weeded them out.
Right.
So hum, especially in North India, we've been consuming Desi cow milk in Haryana and UP for ages. Jersey cow milk है वो थोड़ा recent है. And it is said that a lot of people develop lactose intolerance because of these foreign crossbred cows, cow milk.
Yeah, I've also read about like how to jack up the quantities of milk. Artificial insemination भी होती है cows की, right?
Absolutely.
Where I don't know how that exactly works. Is that like is that a fake semen?
I'm not aware of how the process works. Yeah.
Because I've been binge watching Shark Tank, and some of these guys from Kerala, they came to Shark Tank and they were saying कई बार क्या होता है, your cow is under duress or is having a heat stroke and you're not able to get to it in time. And like, so they made an app where basically the app will tell you, they'll have a ear tracker जहाँ पे आप आपको बताइए कि this is the golden hour for milking the cow, which is so funny on so many levels. But it's very weird how like I remember I've grown up around people who drink milk, who love milk, who will choose milk over chai or coffee. I don't understand it, but I definitely I went to the doctor in 4th grade and he said that you have developed lactose intolerance, which is why I stopped drinking milk and went to just drinking milk-based products. I drink the carton-based shit now. I'm fine. So I guess what you're saying is accurate, because उससे पहले जो हम दूध पी रहे थे, they were from traditional दूध वाले. Nothing wrong, nothing against them, but कभी कभी उसके अंदर मिलावट अगर हो जाती है, so I think that probably causes problems as opposed to what you're saying.
Right. The great thing is that there are so many small-time brands now who are selling in a very like in sexy packaging, good Desi cow milk. It's slightly more expensive. Actually, it's usually double the price of regular cow milk because the output of that cow is much less.
Yeah.
So you can try that out as well. It's not as creamy as, say, the Amul full cream milk that you get. But a lot of people have told me उससे उनको lactose intolerance वाले issues नहीं होते.
Yeah, there's also a big fetish in Gurgaon, NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore around getting gluten free. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. It's cool. It's worked in LA. A lot of health influencers from abroad talk about it. I have tried it, but I know you've been very vocal about eating all kinds of grain and bread. Like what is your take on jwar and bajra? Because I've had वो रोटियां मैंने खाई हैं. They're not as delectable. You know, like like you often talk about like how, you know, grains are a part of our culture. हम लोग बहुत समय से grains खा रहे हैं. But when I wake up and I see everyone around me just eating carbs and grains, मेरा दिमाग खराब हो जाता है.
Right.
Where's the meat? Where's the protein?
Right. So that's interesting about grains. India में there was a more diverse collection of grains that we used to eat. And I'm talking all over India. And then the government in the last 50 years had to take certain steps to solve hunger in the country. Those steps involved overly promoting the consumption of wheat.
Yeah.
This was through, for example, the MSP, the PDS. And this also involved getting high gluten wheat from the United States.
High gluten wheat?
Yes. High gluten wheat from the United States. Now, because the government was providing wheat and incentivizing farmers to produce wheat at a lower price, more people started consuming wheat and less people started consuming traditional grains, other grains such as jowar, bajra, ragi. And these are, you know, different states consume different things. Like Rajasthan में ज़्यादा बाजरा consume करते हैं, for example. Now एक और incentive farmers का, government gave away electricity for free. उससे they could pump in water as much as they can. Like पानी भी free था. ट्यूबवेल में जो बिजली लगती है वो भी free है. And the millets are actually they take less water. Millets, sorghum, which is jowar, bajra, etc. वो लोग कम, वो लोग नहीं, वो grains. I like them so much. I've personified them. वो grains कम पानी यूज करते हैं, so they're more environmentally sustainable also. तो जो climate change वाले लोग हैं जिनको ये सब पसंद है, they should also talk about jowar, bajra. But farmers को लगा कि देखो सरकार हमसे ये ग्रेन खरीद रही आसानी से, वीट, तो हम क्यों प्रोड्यूस करें ज्वार बाजरा. तो वो धीरे धीरे इंसेंटिव चेंज हो गया. नाउ वी कंज्यूम अ लॉट मोर वीट इन इंडिया देन वी कंज्यूम दीज अदर ग्रेन्स. इवन जो सोचो तुम्हारे एंसेस्टर्स इन पार्ट इन से आंध्र प्रदेश, वो इतने साल से लाइक 200 साल से वो रागी कंज्यूम कर रहे हैं. तुम्हारा गट इज ऑल्सो यूज टू दैट काइंड ऑफ ग्रेन. सडनली यू स्टार्ट consuming wheat or rice because the government is incentivizing you to. It will fuck up your health. It will screw up your health in a way. So yeah, there are a bunch of government incentives. And then, now every little packaged food thing has wheat in it and has sugar in it, which is a separate debate, which is a separate conversation rather. इवन आप देखो चीज़ें जो ट्रेडिशनली वीट से नहीं बनी होती थी, फॉर एग्जाम्पल सोन पापड़ी. सोन पापड़ी अगर आप हल्दीराम की खरीदो एंड यू रीड द इंग्रेडिएंट्स, इट हैज़ मैदा इन इट.
बट व्हाई मैदा? लाइक उससे पहले किस चीज़ से बनती थी?
बेसन. या बट बिकॉज इट इज़ चीप, वीट इज़ वेरी चीप इन इंडिया, एंड इट इज़, उसका कोई टेस्ट नहीं होता, सो यू कैन ऐड इट टू एनी थिंग.
So it just bulks up the son papdi basically?
Absolutely.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So then naturally ये बात है, then anyone who wants to have, I don't know, just no, किसी को भी अपनी gut को terrorize नहीं कराना, they have to pay a premium to get like less of son papdi if they want to, do that.
Right. Yeah. Again, preferably with somebody who makes it at a small scale, who has skin in the game, who puts not just effort into it, but also puts in their emotion into it. When you're honest with the work you do, it's very hard to put like bad shit in it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to food. अच्छा, gluten free की बात पे. So what's interesting now is we in India, we have some sort of cultural insecurity, which उसका रीज़न ये हो सकता है that the Brits came to us and they were the rulers, so we wanted to follow them and we thought they are culturally superior. I don't know. This is one hypothesis. So we tend to follow a lot of things that are done in the West. Why I'm talking about this? Because you mentioned gluten free. Now, अब West में लोग gluten free खा रहे हैं for whatever reasons. They have what's the disease called?
Celiac disease.
Celiac disease. ठीक है. Now, अब वो ट्रेंड भी हमें इंडिया में फॉलो करना है, तो हमने क्या खाना शुरू कर दिया? कीनोआ.
Oh my god, yeah.
बट हमें ये अवेयरनेस नहीं थी कि इंडिया में ऑलरेडी इतने सारे ग्लूटेन फ्री ग्रेन्स हैं जो हम ट्राई कर सकते थे, जो हम खा सकते थे.
ये ज्वार बाजरा ग्लूटेन फ्री होते हैं ना?
ज्वार बाजरा ग्लूटेन फ्री,
100% ग्लूटेन फ्री.
100% ग्लूटेन फ्री.
बिकॉज वन थिंग आई नोटिस, मेरे घर पे फॉर एग्जांपल मैं चीले ही खाता हूँ और ज्वार बाजरा खाता हूँ. द अदर ऑल्टरनेटिव दैट आई यूज इज चावल. समटाइम्स इट मेक्स मी फील ब्लोटेड एंड लेजी. बट जब भी ज्वार बाजरे की रोटी खाता हूँ, one benefit, because I've noticed this, like say from traditional rotis, traditional parathes, या जो सबसे घटिया bread होती है वो भी खाना, is that after the ज्वार बाजरे की रोटी, if the sabji isn't too carb heavy, I'm usually able to resume my work without feeling the much brain fog, which is often talked about with gluten.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it spikes up your blood sugar levels much less than wheat would. मैदा सबसे ज़्यादा करते हैं, then whole wheat आटा उसके बाद, then ज्वार बाजरा is relatively less in terms of spiking up your blood sugar levels. Saying that, it varies with people, so सबका different होता है थोड़ा. ये general बात है, but कितना vary करता है वो सबका different होता है. So you can measure that now. I think there are devices to measure that.
Oh yes, I think मैंने
that ultra human HQ does something like this.
there's a podcast Joe Rogan did with Ben Greenfield, who's a biohacker who I've followed a bunch. So he had that device that you're talking about, and he was saying जैसे मैंने legumes खाए, my blood sugar shot up. So that was weird. So then because he's a biohacker, so measures everything. Then he linked it back to maybe there is some genetic predisposition to this specific kind of food. Right. So the other next discussion that I want to dive into is so there are a lot of detox kits or detoxing foods available in the Indian market, right? And there are some जो pan world जो सब समझते हैं, जैसे sauerkraut खा लो, या आप क्या kimchi is good. People drink kombucha now.
Guilty. I drink kombucha.
Yeah. So मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि the Indian gut bacteria is slightly different, because so when I drink kombucha, my mother is like lassi piya kar, right? And like on one hand I'm averse to it, on the other hand I'm slowly learning to understand ki if my ancestors have lived on this particular subcontinent for so many years, it's much more likely कि यहाँ के जो local foods are better for my gut,
right?
As opposed to, say for example, quinoa doesn't, even though it's not a detoxifying food, but it's just the effect of it doesn't do anything for me,
right?
Or for that matter, eating an avocado. But I tried for the gut, I tried this चावल का एक पानी होता है,
right?
जो I think they use in the south quite frequently.
Yeah, Odisha में I think they use that. Yeah. Overnight fermented?
Something like that. Overnight fermentation. Yes. तो तुम चावल को पानी के अंदर रख दो and then you drink the water.
Yeah.
That my gut felt much better. So I was very surprised. Ki this is something that isn't advertised when you look about, when you search detox foods, I see a lot of the discussion around detox also is very America centric, very Western consumer centric, who has,
right,
like kombucha pina and like फिर yoga karna, all that jazz. But I'm so glad that you guys talk about all the things you do on your podcast, because I think we need more food and nutrition जो India के level पे address करता है चीज़ों को.
Right. What's interesting is that in India there is so much decentralized knowledge around food, around methods which will, not just food, beyond food, methods which will help your mental and physical well-being. In the West, and you can correct me here, a lot of knowledge is centralized in the universities. So, but in India, a lot of knowledge is just passed down from, say, your mom will teach you something, but we don't often document it. So we try to bring out those stories, those interesting hacks, to nahi kahunga, but those interesting ways you can improve your life through food in our podcast. That's one reason why we do the podcast.
Yeah, I think our problem is also we're such an oral culture.
Absolutely.
So if you look at like our corpus, like even for food, there are so few researchers doing anything substantial in the food market, and even if they were, it's just not as accessible. But like stories from universally uncredible sources, like someone's mother or someone's father, जो एक traditional food scientist नहीं है या एक food scholar नहीं है, those get discounted. But like surprisingly, that's what we have in numbers. It's just oral wisdom that really isn't peer reviewed.
Absolutely. And which is why I am long on podcasts, because podcasts are in a way you are doing the same thing with a broader audience. पहले कोई पेड़ के नीचे बैठ के 10 लोगों को कुछ सुनाता था, अब हम YouTube पे करते हैं ऐसा. तो it is sort of, reading still is nascent in India, like still relative to listening, relative to the oral tradition. Reading something and learning something is still new, but hearing and watching people talk about something, it's been there in our culture for a long period of time.
That's true.
Ramayan, Mahabharat सब में.
Yeah, you also remember how kings used to just say, I grew up on a lot of Akbar Birbal stories, and one thing that I could not understand is Akbar is so bored all the time. So आज मैं bored हूँ, चलो जी आज ये फलाना इंसान आया है, ये आपको ना उड़ के दिखाएगा, चलो दिखाओ. नहीं मेरे को मज़े नहीं आए. आज एक कोटेसान आई है, ये 7 देशों में डांस कर चुकी, अब ये आपके सामने आ जाएगा, मेरे को मज़ा नहीं आया. So a lot of this whole क्या कहते हैं परफॉर्मेंस फॉर बोर्ड ऑडियंस, या हमारे को रिझाना या मज़े कराना, इज दिस सो इंट्यूटिव टू दिस कल्चर. देयर इज दिस author from Australia called John Zubriski, but I'm mushkil sa Polish last name I can't pronounce. He has written this book called Jaduwalas, Jugglers and Jinns. And he talks about India's magical past. And there are accounts of like Jahangir. Jahangir was also drunk most of the time. So, but he says कि मैंने ऐसी अद्भुत चीजें देखी. There was this standing rope trick where someone could make a rope stand. And this is before you could have buttons and technology जहाँ से rope को खड़ा कर सकते हो. And like someone, you know, had a basket जिसके अंदर से एक leopard निकला. All these absurd things are happening. This is कुछ degree पे कुछ magical realism भी है इसके अंदर. But I think that's what I like about India. That there is a beautiful place you can occupy between fact and fiction.
Right.
And enjoy it. There is no real incentive to be extremely logical here.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Achha, you mentioned yoga earlier and how the West has adopted yoga.
Yeah.
So, not just with yoga, it's been happening with a lot of things. Now, pranayam is becoming big in the US. They call it breath work.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So,
holotropic breath work.
Yeah. So there are two ways to look at it. One, which has been dominating in the Indian right-wing circles, is कि उन्होंने कैसे ले लिया ये, उन्होंने credit क्यों नहीं दिया हमें? ये तो Indian है. Is इसको why call it something else? Why call it breath work?
Yeah.
That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it is that वो practices तो वो जा रही है ना वहाँ पे, जो इंडिया में 2000 साल से हो रहा है, वो practices जा रही है वहाँ पे. Now you can be detached with the फल of that, which is the branding of it. Like you can, काम तो हो रहा है, but तुम फल की चिंता मत करो. मतलब तुम्हें क्रेडिट नहीं मिल रहा है तो ठीक है, but वो प्रैक्टिस हो जा रही है. People are becoming healthy because of yoga, because of pranayam. Even Wim Hof, who we were speaking of offline, he also traveled to India, and a lot of his Wim Hof breathing जो है, he says it's a lot of it he's learned from India.
Yeah, so
a lot of it is learned from pranayam, I think.
Yeah, he says so. He traveled to India and I think Tibet and China. Don't quote me on that, but basically जो ये Eastern spirituality and monks in the Himalayas वाला जो archetype है, उसने यहाँ पे आके देखा. Then he stripped it clean of its rituals and just had the technique alive, because that's what Europeans are great at doing. And yeah, him like it's weird. Have you recently started doing Wim Hof? Like the breathing part.
So I've been doing pranayam for I think the last 7-8 months regularly. Especially जब मुझे COVID हुआ था, उसके बाद I realized how important it is to take care of your lungs. And it started off with that, but now I do it for mental clarity. I know how important it is to regulate your breathing, to be, it can open up so much for you mentally, emotionally. If you are able to control your breathing.
Agreed. Yeah. If you, especially like you've been to Delhi climbs, you've climbed there once, right? Yeah. I was there yesterday after a long time, and this particular climb, this called Comfortably Dumb. I don't know if you went to that one.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
Achha, you went to just one standard area.
I went to 2 areas.
2 areas, okay.
Yeah. One was you had to like climb up a rocky, muddy path, and you reached sort of halfway, and then वहाँ से rock था climb करने को.
Achha, but this was not flat land. Like you're always standing on a slope.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about the one climb that they have where the rock is jutting out. I don't know if you were there. Irrespective, it's called Comfortably Dumb. It's funny how climbers just name whatever.
Yeah.
कुछ भी नाम रख देते हैं उसका, जो मन करता है कि ये Comfortably Dumb है. But I was on that, and there's so much narrative attached to difficult climbs. When you talk to other climbers also, यार ये वाली नहीं हो सकती, ये हो सकती है. And as someone rusty, you went climbing for the first time.
I went climbing for the first
time, right? And I went climbing after months of not doing it. What happens when you're climbing outdoor on the rocks कि तुम्हारी सांस फूलनी शुरू हो जाती है, और you're more jittery, you're not as centered, for example. And then what I did is कि यार, I have all the time in the world, there is enough footholds here, why don't I slowly take deep mechanical breaths and do it? And in controlling my breath, I was able to just have a little bit more strategy in my moves, as opposed to blindly chasing, footholds and handholds in the dark.
Right.
Which is what usually happens. When the first time you climb, your body is not adept कि वो इतने discomfort में, इतनी randomness में operate कर रही है, कहीं से पकड़ना भी है, कैसे भी करना है.
It is for good reason asking you to panic, because it does not realize the rope that you have on you. Because evolutionarily it makes sense for you to panic उस time पे, because you could die if you not for that rope.
Absolutely. What was your experience like? You were there. First of all, like for people who don't know about it, Delhi Climbs is like a rock climbing site in Mangar, Haryana. halfway from Faridabad, halfway from Gurgaon. How did you find out about them, and like what was your experience like?
I found out about them through Instagram. I don't know kiske through, but kahin dekha tha Instagram pe. I thought, why not go try it out?
Yeah.
I enjoy occasionally getting out of my comfort zone, as I was just telling you. So I went, and you're right. First climb mein, I was panicking a bit.
Yeah.
I didn't realize कि मेरी body क्या कर सकती थी. And then the instructor was nice enough. He said कि don't worry, you won't fall. Just try pushing yourself.
Do you remember the name of the instructor?
No, unfortunately not. Yeah.
No worries, sir.
Then by the third climb, I realized I don't have to panic. I won't die.
Yeah.
There is a rope, there's a harness I'm wearing.
Yeah.
So I can, and I did that by controlling my breath. Like I started breathing through the nose rather than mouth breathing. Mouth breathing is often, I don't know, a result of or a reaction to panicking.
Correct.
But I started breathing through my nose, taking deep breaths when I was stuck. And I decided not to take it too fast. Like if I'm stuck somewhere, take a deep breath and rationally analyze your potential next step.
It's so... I don't know if you've done indoor climbing gyms. There's one in Vasant Kunj called Boulder Box.
Once. After that I went.
After that you went. What was the change in experience like? Because in those climbing gyms, you can do it multiple times.
Right.
You went to Boulder Box or Climb Central?
I went to the one in Vasant Kunj. Which is that?
Boulder Box.
Boulder Box.
That has no ropes.
That has no ropes.
That's just straight up bouldering, yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like? Going from the rocks out in the wilderness, 40 feet high to just that?
It was easier in a way. Easier not in the sense, मतलब वहाँ पे भी there are different, as you know, there are different levels.
Yeah.
So you can go from level 0 to level 1 to level 2, level 3, level 4. Even the levels I couldn't do, I knew that it was not on a rock, and I knew like 20 people have been on this, and ये इतना change नहीं होगा. Maybe when I was climbing on an actual rock, I realized even if like last week somebody would have done this, there could have been a like कोई हवा चली होगी और ये rock change हो गया होगा, इसका like ये ज़्यादा slippery हो गया होगा. So you don't know how it has changed, but I know there is a bit more predictable. Like
yes, it's literally holes marked by colors.
So the downside risk is limited.
That's true.
In my head, that was the thing. But interestingly, when I climbed up to one of the walls, coming down was a challenge, because climbing up, your adrenaline takes you up, but niche aane mein, you're like, how do I do this? And you have to look down niche aate hue.
No, so this was in the gym.
This was in Boulder Box.
This was in Boulder Box. So you can just jump down.
Yeah, eventually I did that.
Yeah. It's weird. So both bouldering is a skill that, top rope climbing is built on.
Right.
Because usually you go top rope climbing, I just think that's going on hard mode first. Because ये जो चीज़ होती है ना bouldering, it teaches you moves and stuff, how to manipulate your weight, how to use your feet more. As a first time climber, you are always hanging on for dear life as opposed to standing on for dear life.
Right.
So just the reason bouldering is a little bit more boring. It isn't as adrenaline friendly as say climbing out in the rocks, जहाँ पे इतना कुछ unpredictable है.
Yeah. How did you get into it?
How did I get into it? My friend Ritin, he had a startup called Ever Outdoor, started in COVID, and he was trying to basically make an aggregator for a bunch of different outdoor companies, aisa kuch. He discovered these guys. These guys had shut their base in Ladakh in the lockdown and come to Delhi. And they've been doing climbing in Mangar since the 70s and 80s.
Right.
Some of the OG uncles can't stop telling their stories. When they come, they talk about, matlab main sochta hu na, like, I think you're someone who takes risks, because if you see the road that leads from Gurgaon to Mangar, right? It isn't something anyone who's well versed with urban areas, जो कभी बाहर नहीं जाता, you'll realize कि I'm in a place I don't belong in.
Right.
Till the time you get to the campsite, right? So, but there was these uncles जो खाली बैठ रहे थे 70s, 80s में. They're the guys who basically, along with the help of some European friends who were training in climbing, they came and they marked these routes. They're the guys who made the guidebooks for climbing.
Lovely.
One of them is Mo Sir, and a couple other guys whose name I've forgotten. I don't know his full name. He's just called Mo Sir by everyone. He was there yesterday. But these guys manually chose routes, फिर उसको guidebook के अंदर डाला, and that's how this kicked off. In the 70s and 80s, there was nothing here but absolute wilderness. So they would just camp. अब तो बहुत system बन गया. अब तो like it's getting more capitalistic and like it's more accessible. So I discovered them through my friend Ritin, and then I started going, and I really enjoyed that. I was, lockdowns aa gaye the, traditional gyms were closed. I wanted to do something different. Plus, the community there is very libertarian, very sovereign. They don't really care what you do.
Right.
They're not intrusive at all. There aren't strict rules. They don't treat it like a bloody Rishikesh adventure package.
Yep.
Which I think is very important. What I found about climbers is they're very cooperative. Even if you're a shitty climber, there's so many people cheering you on.
Yeah.
कि कर सकते हो, अब ऐसे कर लो. So it isn't competitive. It's one of the few sports that isn't really competitive. It's very cooperative.
Right.
Your climb is your climb. So that's how I discovered it, and I made friends with all of them. And अब जाके मजे आते हैं. But I'm done for a day. जब मैं climbing करके आता हूँ, I cannot do anything else. I just have to recover. But these guys have incredible muscular endurance. They can do one climb 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Yep.
So I'm in awe of that. But yeah, so it's weird. The other thing that I discovered about climbing, surprisingly about food, is I've had very unhealthy food after climbing. 6 samosa khaye hain, but I'm so famished that I just think it hits the right spots in the body, and I don't get the same effect. I was just like, laying around lazily.
Right.
But yeah.
The body is an interesting creature.
Very interesting, right?
Yeah.
There's also this place in San Francisco where people would go to surf, and then they would eat like $1 ki jo wo fish and chips वगैरह आते हैं.
Right.
Because surfing also makes you famished.
Got it.
So I think that anyone who's supremely hungry, and I want to take on this, for example, like a perpetually hungry dihadi ka jo worker hota hai, you can't even think about nutrition because you're so famished that all food acts as nourishment. Yeah.
Interesting that you mentioned dihadi ka worker. A lot of us, despite doing jobs on desks, eat like farmers still.
Yeah?
Yeah, like our food is too carb heavy, which would make sense for a farmer who's toiling in the sun all day long.
Yeah.
But now that we've advanced to, some people would call it advanced, some people would call it regressed. Now that we've advanced to professions where we sit in front of our desk all day long, we don't need that kind of carb intake.
What do you think we're better off with?
Less carbs.
Yeah.
Less grain, ideally. But again, this is not me escaping the responsibility of what I'm saying. Genuinely to each his own. Like, one way you can do it is to start meditating. When you start meditating, you're more mindful of what you put inside your body, how it reacts with your body, not just immediately, but also over the day. Like you can feel if something is bloating you. अगर तुम्हारा मन ही 10 चीज़ों में है, तो तुम नहीं वो body तुम्हें signals देगी through some way or the other that this is not good for us, this is not good for me, and this is doing great for me. You need to understand those signals. Even overeating happens because you don't hear those signals. Your body tells you.
Yeah.
If you listen to it, it tells you when you need to stop eating.
Yeah, that's a big discussion.
Yeah.
Like I keep mentioning Vipassana, but मुझे उसके बाद याद है कि हर एक जैसे पानी भी जा रहा है ना शरीर के अंदर तो उसका क्या इफेक्ट है. But I think most of us, not all of us, have arrived at that place where, and I know you're a foodie, so you look at it differently. But I'm neutral to food, so for me it's like I go eat, and if I'm busy, I'm watching something, I'm just like I'm grazing. Like mindlessly grazing. Right. Chal rahe hain. Just like can't savor the bite.
Yeah.
My Nana ji used to say ki 40 baar chew karo, ye sab karo. That's a task.
Right.
And we're more like, we're gulpers now as opposed to chewers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Do you practice like chewing heavily or no?
I do try to. I'm obviously still, it's a journey for me. अब मैं भी अभी भी काफ़ी बार
मेरी chewing की journey.
हाँ, अभी भी मैं टीवी देखते देखते या कोई शो देखते देखते खाता हूँ. जो मैं काफ़ी कम करना चाहता हूँ. It's a bad habit.
Yeah.
I want to eat more mindfully. But yes, meditation, Vipassana style meditation, or whatever suits your
whatever floats your boat.
Whatever floats your boat, definitely helps understanding how a food reacts to your body. Yeah.
Let's talk about meat. Meat is pervasive in the south, very pervasive in the northeast, in the east as well. But most of North India, barring I guess some parts of Punjab and Kashmir, I'm missing a few states, has like meat is in the natural part of your diet, right? And for meat, people usually turn to just North Indian style meat. Like yesterday night, I never do this. I had cravings, so I ordered butter chicken. boneless, of course. But I always eat butter chicken and I feel disgusted after कुछ या तो ऐसा होता है अंदर से आदमी सड़ जाता है. Like I've had very few beautiful butter chicken experiences, and yet it puzzles me why that's the number one meat item in North India.
Right. That's interesting that you felt that way. So a lot of places do not use the right ingredients. I mean, obviously, they again want to optimize on
4.1 stars on Zomato still.
Yeah. So if you don't eat mindfully, or if you don't like care much, अगर तुम ऐसे ही खा रहे हो surface level पे, तो तुम्हें नहीं realize होगा कि वो गलत ingredients है. For example, you don't use butter, you use say refined oils. You don't use good kind of tomatoes. You don't use.
Oh, the butter chicken gravy is made from tomatoes?
Yeah, it has tomatoes, cream, butter usually.
Kaju as well, right? If you want to make it sweeter.
I mean, some people put kaju, some people don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
It tastes sweet.
The weirdest thing I've come across is dairy-free butter chicken.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Made with coconut milk.
Is this something that people buy from Lee Marsh?
No, I've seen like food influencers make it.
Makes no sense, by the way. This
It's again comes from that Western trend कि हमें dairy नहीं खाना. Dairy is not good for us.
Yeah.
Of course, so many people like yourself are lactose intolerant, so it makes sense. You should also
allegedly. I'm not sure. Huh.
You should also get like at least 90% of the flavor of butter chicken. So maybe coconut milk, which I think is also a misnomer to call coconut extract, soya extract, milk. It is not milk. ठीक है, खा लो पी लो जो करना करो, but उसको call it what it is. Like we as a society shouldn't lie to ourselves. My problem is that we are lying to ourselves. It is not milk. दूध नहीं है वो. तो ठीक है मुझे वो दे दो, बट वो दूध नहीं है. और अगर आप ये सोया मिल्क एक्सेट्रा के पैक्स खरीदो, उसमें क्या 2% सोया होता है, 3% सोया होता है. I don't know the exact
number. It's flavor. You're just drinking flavor.
Yeah, बाकी पानी होता है वो. So yeah, just don't call it milk. Be honest कि क्या है ये.
You know, I think you will enjoy this. I had a little war when I was staying in Boston with my roommate. When you hyper optimize and when you're like a big Tim Ferriss buff, you realize कि खाना भी is a waste of time. So I heard this thing called Huel. Huel is a British startup, and what they do is imagine like if there is a science dystopia film and humanity has lost all taste, but you still have to give nutrition, right? So it's this thick, powdery substance, जैसे पैक के अंदर आता है, and you have to take 3 massive scoops. बड़ा गाढ़ा सा होता है, उसे मिलाने के लिए बहुत मेहनत लगती है. But it's supposed to be a meal replacement. So the way they do it is, and उसके अंदर peas डाले होते हैं, हर तरह की चीज़ चली होती है, but powder है उसका. 1 scoop is a snack, 2 is like a semi-salad meal, and 3 is like a full-fledged meal. For months, I just did this, and then I had one solid food. I mean, it was hard to shit. It was super weird to drink all the time. And then my roommate was like, ye karta hai, chodo. Then he started competing with me and got this thing called Soylent. Yeah. So Soylent, do you know about Soylent?
Yeah, I know of Soylent. Yeah.
So wo ye soy-based, it's also a meal replacement of some kind. Those months were horrible because for the sake of optimizing and investing in this supposed health product that's going to, save my time, I ended up just like going away from food completely and being perpetually hungry, but not really knowing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's very weird.
Yeah. So that's the problem with optimizing in one direction. You screw up everything else when you do that in your path to optimize in one direction. For example, let's say mock meat. What are these companies that are producing?
Oh, Impossible
Meat.
Yeah.
Now they are optimizing for the food to taste exactly like a beef patty, like the burger that they produce, the patty that they produce for the burger, tastes exactly like a beef patty.
Yeah.
Now in doing so, they don't care about anything else. They just putting any shit in that food ताकि वो beef जैसा taste करे. उसके ingredients are shit. Like a lot of them are synthetic and not good for your body at all.
Yeah?
Yeah. Also, you mentioned meat earlier. Now, there is often a debate ki meat or no meat. It's often binary. But in North India and in actually a lot of traditions across the world, it's not binary. Like you are vegetarian for say 5 days a week, but तुम 2 दिन मटन या फिश खा लेते हो.
As feast.
As feast, yeah. But ऐसा नहीं है जैसे अभी like there is a movement in the US of people who just eat meat or who just are vegan. तो वो बिल्कुल एक्सट्रीम पे ले जाते हैं. ऐसे आई हैव अ पंजाबी फैमिली, माई पंजाबी फैमिली ईट्स ट्वाइस और थ्राइस मीट खाते हैं हम हफ्ते में. बाकी दिन वी आर वेजिटेरियंस. बट कोई पूछेगा तुम क्या हो तो वी विल से वी आर मीट ईटर, वी आर नॉन वेजिटेरियन. बट फॉर मोस्ट पार्ट ऑफ द वीक वी ईट सब्जी, रोटी, दूध, दाल. It's not binary ki meat eater versus non-meat eater, which is also what you see in so many thalis across India. If you notice local thalis like Maharashtrian thali, Andhra thali, even if they have meat, they will always have sabji and dal alongside it.
Meat has always existed happily along with other
exactly
Indian foods.
It's not just ki you just have to have steak akele aur kuch aur saath mein nahi.
Yeah, I think
that Jordan Peterson extreme.
Yeah. That I think you can't do it here because how the hell will you get your hands on steak first of all, and then second of all, just you can get away with being individualistic in USA and some people looking at you कि यार ये सिर्फ क्या मीट खा रहे हैं. Here I think it's impossible if you do that.
Right.
Because लोग चाय तो मना नहीं कर पाते किसी को. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I think one way to take your health journey in your own hands in India is to start saying no. And for the sake of hospitality, लोग क्या क्या खिलाते हैं. Like अगर मेरे घर पे कोई आएगा, ideally I would want to give them the healthiest, gut friendly, satisfying experience. But मैं खिला रहा हूँ तुम्हें, आओ ये हल्दीराम के खटिया से नमकीन खाओ, अब चाय पियो, उसके बाद and then just we just like comfort food so much that the only way we can get to anything that is like, you know, ideally nutritious is on our own research. मतलब if you think about whatever, जैसे हम बात कर रहे थे पहले ब्रेकफास्ट फूड की बात करेंगे. यहाँ पे नॉर्थ इंडिया में ब्रेकफास्ट फूड क्या है? पूड़ी लस्सी, आलू पूड़ी, राइट, आलू पराठा है ना. छूटते ही ब्रेन फॉग ले जाओ. सुबह उठते ही
सुबह उठते ही इंसुलिन स्पाइक.
हाँ,
ट्रू.
एंड I'm just wondering, do you know like any particular reasons why it's like these foods became the norm for all of India? कि मुंबई में वड़ा पाव ही खा रहे हैं, यहाँ you know पराठे आलू पूड़ी ही खा रहे हैं.
So I see aloo as a common element in all of this. That is simply due to economics. आलू सस्ता होता है, सब जगह खा सकते हैं. Very cheap and also very easily available. Third, अगर तुम दिन में 10 किलोमीटर चल रहे हो एज अ फार्मर, या तुम मुंबई लोकल में पूरा दिन अपनी मरवा रहे हो, then you need sort of high energy foods like vada pav. मतलब you don't need it, but you'd rather have it than not have it. But so many professions are just sitting at a desk. You can't eat those things and not expect negative effects on your body if you're just sitting on your desk every day. Even if you're working out for 1 hour in a day, it's still not your lifestyle. You're adding that as a workout. Like you don't toil in the sun. For people who toil in the sun, aloo parantha makes sense. But वो diet अभी तक change नहीं हुई, because change takes time, change takes effort, change takes often tragedies.
What can we do as say Indians जो ये podcast देख रहे हैं, सुन रहे हैं, या जो मतलब who have an edge in say understanding health and who don't want to make too many changes? Like it's ridiculous to go buy, I don't know, fucking quinoa or even avocados. Indian avocados just don't do the trick. They're just harder.
Right.
So if you want to get into like just optimizing whatever food you have, what are some good places to start?
I would say start fasting, intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Because so I was a very fat kid. I used to stress eat, perpetually eat snack every day. And now to go from there to conventional advice says कि कम खाओ या कंट्रोल करो अपने डिज़ायर्स, या हर 1-2 घंटे बाद खा लो, पर ऐसे पूरा टाइम मत खाओ. Now to get to that is slightly harder than to completely not think about food cold turkey for say 16 hours, at least for me. तो मुझे पता है कि मैं रात को 9 बजे से लेके अगले दिन 2 बजे तक नहीं खाऊंगा. मेरे को लाइक आई वोंट इवन गो नियर फूड, इट इज़ नॉट ऑन माई एजेंडा. बट फिर वो बाकी 8 घंटे आई विल बी वेरी I'll be fine, like मैं कितना ही खा सकता हूँ in 8 घंटे में. So you can start off with fasting for say 13 hours. You can move to 14 hours. You can move to 15 hours, 16 hours. That is not the only benefit of fasting. There is like autophagy, which is essentially your body cleans itself up because उस time पे your gut is not doing the work of digesting food.
Yeah.
तो वो थोड़ा और वो अपने side hustles भी कर सकता है gut. सफाई कर सकता है. Free होता है वो gut.
The gut is overworked usually.
Yes, exactly. सुबह उठते ही अगर तुम परांठे डाल दो अपनी बॉडी में तो बोलेगा भाई अरे भाई.
So when you intermittently fast, do you use coffee as well?
I use coffee, but I want to. That is something also I want to completely quit. Like I want to be on a water fast.
So that is just bas pani pina till the time your feeding window arrives.
Ideally, yes. Some people when they fast for a longer period of time, they consume salts. You can do that. Try out things. Experiment with your body. You have one body, one life. Try out things. You can experiment with your body with things that won't kill you. Like you can, like with things which have limited
get piercings and tattoos.
Limited upper risk or things which you can return from. So try out things with your body. I, for example, quit sugar for a week.
Yeah.
Completely quit it for a week. Did not have it. And that
not even in fruits?
No.
Natural sugars.
Sucrose I quit.
Okay. Fructose you still had?
Fructose I still had, but not like excessively. Not like कि मैं और कुछ मीठा नहीं खा रहा हूँ तो मैं
fruit खा लेता हूँ.
Fruit overdose करूँ. जितना मैं normally खा रहा हूँ.
Fruit पे overdose नहीं कर सकते.
हाँ. Which is also very interesting. Yeah. Because when you with sugar you can overdose, but fruit because it has so much around it, your body will limit how much you can have it.
Yeah.
So, for example, you can overdose on say. Sweet lemonade.
Absolutely.
You can overdose on sweet lemonade. You can't overdose on apples. Acha, what was I saying? I forgot.
Yeah, no, this is a good tangent to explore.
Yeah.
Usse pehle we were talking about intermittent fasting.
Right, intermittent fasting. I was talking about quitting sugar for a week. Now, I realized so many things after quitting sugar for a week. You can like write an entire essay on that. For example, when you quit something, you know what effect it has on your body when you consume it. So after quitting, when I actually had it for the first time, I knew how I felt. I knew how much, like, say, it spiked my blood sugar level. You can feel it because you've been without it. It's like that old saying, na, ki jab tum, like, even for like a lover, when you're without your lover for a year, you know, you value it more.
Yeah.
So if I was without sugar for a week, I understood its value and its downsides as well.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't control me. Now I can have sugar when I want, not
impulsively.
Not impulsively, which is something which sugar is very addictive. It is very, very addictive. तुम एक हफ्ता sugar quit करो और तुम फिर थोड़ा सा भी खाना शुरू कर दो तो you'll want to have more.
Yeah.
It's easier again to not have sugar cold turkey and rather than to have like less of it, because when you have less of it, you want more of it.
That's I think also environment design plays a big role in it.
Absolutely.
How one thing that I've tried to do at my house and have failed is just have that conversation with my parents about like how much bad foods we've had at the house. And when I say bad foods, I just mean like overdosing on sodium, sugar, ye sab cheezein. Because you're also controlled by biology and you're not always. We haven't achieved that level of rationality where we have absolute David Goggins-like control over things, right? So you fall prey to some things. Like for example, अगर तुम्हारे drawer के अंदर सिर्फ hide and seek भरे हुए हैं, right? And you're out there for a midnight snack. You're going to choose that, right? Over say an apple, which isn't accessible. I also, by the way, full disclaimer, 2 years ago, I quit sugar, caffeine, THC, nicotine for like 50 days और पूरा एक social media challenge करा था. Tough days because well, fuck, now you just have to, at least I was used to stimulating myself with kuch na kuch constantly. That elimination, that absence just really makes you feel, acha, I'm always in control by these things. I don't know where I heard, but like, you've so rightly put it that the best thing you can do for any kind of like bodily change is to start eliminating the things that you eat, that you put into it, and then see how you're without them. To understand ki ab tumhara wo, because if you have like a routine, for example, caffeine, right? It's so hard for me to not drink coffee, but the few days I did it, for example, in COVID, I didn't have coffee for like a week. That made me value it more. So I drink less of it now. इससे पहले मैं पूरा जग भी जाता था.
Right.
And then my anxiety would spike up through the roof.
Absolutely.
And then I would have to work out to release that anxiety.
Right.
And the worst thing is, if you're anxious on coffee, what coffee does is, पता नहीं, I could be wrong. Coffee isn't the best for focus. Caffeine
is the best focus.
Isn't the best for focus.
Yeah.
Your focus still arrives from you having a clear agenda कि मुझे क्या करना है. What caffeine does is it amps up your energy. So you can be busy but not as focused. And I've been more focused without caffeine as well. So I know कि ये जो पूरा hypothesis है ना कि तुम caffeine पियो तो तुम ज़्यादा काम करोगे is inaccurate. Because a lot of people drink lots of caffeine and do busy work. Right. That doesn't end up anywhere.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've again also realized that through reducing or quitting coffee for a while. How was your journey like in these 50 days? Did it get significantly easier to not do those things after a certain point of time?
It's like that I haven't practiced nofap in my life, but there's a whole big community on the internet who advocates that.
Right.
I think they get off to it कि मैंने 250 दिन से I haven't fapped, but
Command है उस बात.
हाँ. Plus the problem with me was, and I'm getting better at it, is like I did that challenge publicly.
Right.
I made a blog about it. पूरा वो Shazam. Now everyone's like, and so some people reached out कि तू हमारे को shame कर रहा है, हम तो करते हैं. So I think the best thing for these challenges is to just do them privately. Because then you can notice everything. And plus, I think I felt great. The first 2-3 weeks were hard. But if I were to do it again, I would do it privately, not attach my identity to it, do private experiments, and then talk about मैंने ये करा है. Because the issue with doing it in public is that then you are like kind of locked into it. Then it is what runs your life. For those 50 days, all I was asked is कि हाँ तेरा वो challenge चल रहा है ना, हाँ यार मेरा वो challenge चल रहा है, मैं वो चूतिया चीज़ कर रहा हूँ जिसके तुम मजाक बना रहे हो. So it's just I would probably do it privately now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. एक और चीज़ which a lot of people have an issue with is कि इतनी सारी conflicting advice है. कहीं कोई कह रहा है घी मत खाओ, कहीं कोई कह रहा है हार्वर्ड स्टडी कही थी कि कोकोनट ऑयल मत खाओ. तो again you have to listen to your body and you have to also respect your ancestors. अगर तुम्हारे ancestors 2000 साल से या 1000 साल से कोकोनट ऑयल खाते जा रहे हैं, मतलब बेकार चीज़ नहीं है. Even though you obviously have to optimize also for your environment थोड़ा बहुत, कि तुम घर पे बैठे हो डेस्क पे, not working on a farm, but and now we're getting to Joe Rogan territory, कि you also said कि अपनी हेल्थ इम्प्रूव करने के लिए you should eliminate rather than add. But what big pharma will tell you is कि नहीं तुम ये नई दवाई लो या ये तुम नया ये लो, add things to your life to improve them. But often and most often you have to remove things from your life to improve it.
Yeah, big pharma मतलब full, like I agree. मैं इसका not even big pharma, because I've seen it. All generations past me who didn't have the luxury of, say, doing independent research on the internet. Right. God bless the internet for that.
God
right?
bless it, yeah.
I went to a physio, love her, she's great, right? But I think one way in which physiotherapy is fatally flawed, and I could be wrong. I want to meet holistic practitioners जो कुछ और करते हैं. So I had a problem in my patella here. यहाँ कोई दिक्कत हो गई थी. It started paining, because if you don't pay attention to your posture, or like you put too much weight on one foot,
right,
तो तुम unevenly खड़े होना शुरू हो जाते हो. Over time it मतलब वो injury बन जाती है. Some kind of like pain that you can't really pinpoint, but वो होता है. So I went to the physio. The first thing they said is stop movement immediately. ठीक है. So इसको एक degree के beyond bend नहीं करना. Agreed. There are merits to that, right? Now the problem is this muscle which is already over fatigued isn't exactly getting rest क्योंकि अब उसका range of motion ही बंद हो गया है, right? No blood is flowing into it. It's basically मैंने उसको dormant like a vegetable बना लिया है. So the pain became more intense क्योंकि अगर हल्का सा भी you can't, ऐसा तो कर नहीं सकते ना कि पैर बिल्कुल नहीं मोड़ोगे. There are, even if you're squatting, if you eliminate squatting, bed पे तो लेटोगे तब तो पैर मुड़ेगा, right? कुछ कर नहीं सकते. You can't like lie down like a Frankenstein like figure. So the pain increased and I was doing more physio, like following everything to the T, but nothing was happening. Then I came across Knees Over Toes guy on Instagram. ठीक है, I haven't bought his program, but मैंने उसकी पहली post देखी. And traditionally squats you do with your, your knees are not over your toes. Your knees are always behind your toes. That's what you're taught. So what he does is he uses an inclined board. And when you do squats on an inclined board, by default knees toes के आगे आ जाती हैं. Turns out that's actually very good for your knees. So this guy had several knee problems.
Right.
He's been on Joe Rogan as well, and knee strengthening is something no one focuses on. And what they do in physio for knee strengthening is very outline, बड़ा perfunctory सा थोड़ा सा करा देते हैं कि बस 5-6 बार कर लो. Because they, again, why physiotherapy in India is broken is because they optimize for like 60-year-old arthritis वाले uncle aunties, not for like someone who's like relatively fit. तो I just start उसकी post के अंदर, free post के अंदर देख के I started doing that. My knee is much better than ever. I can fully bend it without feeling any pain. And it's becoming better the more I do it. Now if I let myself be completely at the mercy of big physio, for the lack of a better word, right? I'd be screwed. This would lead to a host of other problems, but I have to take it in my own hands. So
Right. Yeah.
I think this is one of the things where a lot of people like us, they can use the internet, do their own research and arrive at things that aren't always available in, say, our public institutions.
Right. Which is what I absolutely love about the internet. There is so much knowledge again in the world, and as I mentioned in India as well, which is decentralized, which is not जो डॉक्टर्स हैं वो तो काफ़ी बार यूनिवर्सिटीज़ में मतलब ऑफ काफ़ी बार नहीं हमेशा यूनिवर्सिटी से सीखते हैं चीज़ें विच इज सॉर्ट ऑफ सेंट्रलाइज्ड नॉलेज बट देयर सो मच नॉलेज विच पीपल हैव tried for years and it has worked, but वो यूनिवर्सिटी टेक्स्ट में नहीं आई है तो डॉक्टर्स को भी नहीं पता. I was going to give you an example. My grandmother actually has diabetes for a while, and unke doctors, she is some of the best doctors in India.
Yeah.
They have been like, it's a lifestyle disease, first of all, diabetes. Agreed. They don't mention anything about changing the lifestyle. They just say कि आप वो गुड डे बिस्किट जगह मैरी बिस्किट खा लो क्योंकि उसमें थोड़ा कम.
Oh my God.
Yeah, but biscuit has मैदा and has sugar. But they won't say कि आप ज्वार के बिस्किट खाओ, which is gluten free. And they will also prescribe like weird protein supplements, which are not whey protein, just things which have synthetic refined oils.
जैसे?
I'm forgetting the brand name. But yeah, they just prescribe weird things to them, which put money in somebody's pocket. And I mean, that's maybe a skeptical way of looking at it, and maybe they are being honest because this is what they know. They after becoming doctors, they're like, probably हमें और research करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Now, there are serious demerits, which is हम पहले बात कर रहे थे ना कि I think experts need to realize more often the narrow mountain that they're standing on.
Absolutely.
Because क्या होता है, you get so hung up on being the expert, on giving answers all the time that you stop learning. And like it takes a rare doctor, for example, to constantly change, I was wrong.
Yeah.
I can understand the problems that doctors can have. You cannot be wrong. If you go to your patient and say, यार जो मैं तुम्हें पिछले 5 साल से कर रहा हूँ ना तुम्हारा arthritis, वो actually say, oh shit, मैं तुम्हारी जिंदगी बर्बाद कर दूंगा तुम. So it's a tough spot to be in, which is why I think that eventually the people who are going to fare the best are just people who are not exactly who are in the middle of these things, because there are constraints to being a doctor. I went to one orthopedic who was so holistic. He's like, yoga kar lo, sab kuch theek ho jayega. So I'm like, acha theek hai. On one level he's absolutely right. The prescription is like he's basically saying ek discipline mein aa jao is cheese ke, it's going to make all of this better. Makes sense. But as someone going for immediate relief, not the best strategy,
Right.
Because if I'm like a 70-year-old fucking like I'm a hunchback like that, and मुझे तुम योगा करने के लिए नहीं बोल सकते. So it's a tricky terrain. Like it's like how much do you prescriptionize? How much is possible? The other thing with your grandmother, for example, is they also want a repeat customer.
Right, which is why she's been prescribed like millions of medicines as well. And you can treat diabetes without medicines, but उनका incentive नहीं है to be able to do that.
Do you know any ways? क्योंकि मेरे को पता है like a good diet, you can control and maintain it, right? It's like chronic pain. You can't fully eliminate it.
I mean, some people say you can.
There's an institute in the US that claims that they can fully eliminate diabetes. It's very expensive. I forgot the name.
Even Luke Coutinho, who's a holistic health coach, he says you can eliminate it. And I know people who have reduced their medication, cholesterol medication, diabetes medication through changing their diets. It's very much possible. Because imagine तुम एक दवाई लेके तुम you're thinking कि कितना इफेक्ट हो सकता है तुम्हारी बॉडी पे, तो वो दवाई का साइज इतना है, ठीक है. Now imagine the quantum of food that you consume in a day. अगर तुम वो change कर दो तो कितना effect हो सकता है तुम्हारी body पे?
Yeah.
Like look at the scale of it. Like if you can change that, then you can change much more in your body than a medicine. Yeah. I have had unpleasant experiences with medicine. In your teens or in your early 20s, you have this phase where you're questioning life, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So some people say कि जाओ कोई psychiatrist से बात कर लो. तो मैं गया psychiatrist के पास. He said कि बॉस तुम्हें lifelong depression है, ये लो एक pill, रोज लेना. I ranted to him for half an hour. His only reply was, and he was one of the best doctors in I think Bangalore. Yeah, best doctors in Bangalore. He said ये pill लो, तुम खाना ये full life, पूरी life you have to have this pill. He said nothing else. Zilch. Pill खा. हाँ, he said alcohol मत पियो.
Because antidepressant and alcohol don't mix well.
Yeah. He said ये pill खाओ और alcohol मत पियो. Bye bye, thank you. Give me my 1,500 rupees. That day, and I'm glad that I had so many people in my life who actually advised or told me to try other methods, which thank God worked for me.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I didn't get on those pills.
Bro, you've touched a nerve. Like I was going through a very bad time earlier in 2021, and I remember someone close to me gave me an Alprax. You know, and what is the thing that Jordan Peterson got hooked on? Same stuff, right?
Similar stuff, yeah.
Uska, I just can't forget the name of the compounds, the particular compound in Alprax, but it's anti-anxiety, right?
Right.
I could immediately sleep, but the next morning I woke up hating myself.
Right.
But this is the reality of many Indians.
Yeah.
You know, that for sleep they use Alpraxes. And मैं तो मतलब, if you are dying, मैं अब बहुत serious territory आ गई, because I know people who are almost on the verge of committing suicide. For them, psychiatry saves them because it reduces everything down to a 7 as opposed to a 1 or a 10. You know, like
absolutely understood.
It just blunts the force of that.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
For everyone else, my God, like psychiatry, you're much better off. But this is the problem as well. You go to Practo, you've got people becoming mental health counselors. बहनचो 6 महीने की डिग्री करिए, डिप्लोमा करा, you know, and like you're out there like treating people and they're telling you all these things and you just do a pat on the back. So fucking therapy is broken in that sense. I consult with a psychoanalyst every now and then. I really enjoy that because it's more narrative driven. But even then, the average person doesn't have access to good therapy because the industry standard for that is so all over the place. You have to straight up psychiatry, as you're saying, the pills problem, right? Or there are just people who have no clue what the fuck they're doing. Very few thorough, competent professionals who can lead you to, like, you know, living a better life, or, you know, at least change the narrative that you have in your head about, say, your body image or any other problems, right? बहुत कम है वो in India के अंदर.
Right. And more people need to be prescribed exercise.
Yes.
I was unfit and I changed that. That helped me massively.
Yeah.
You need to start actively practicing gratitude. That is a free lunch. I mean, I know to get to that stage of starting to look at like brighter things in life, that also takes
a while. Yeah. मैं जो क्या बोल रहा हूँ gratitude के लिए चुदी पड़ी है, you know, ये भी हो जाता है.
But if you, I mean, for me, practicing gratitude proactively has been a, you know, life hack, as they say in the West.
Yeah.
It's actually the closest thing that will come to free lunch. If you just spend 1 minute saying out loud whatever you're grateful for, even something as simple as I have a car to come from Gurgaon to Faridabad today, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah.
Even something as simple as that, कि मेरे पास घर है भाई, इतना अच्छा सोने के लिए अच्छा खाना मिलता है. Thing which you take for granted every day.
Yeah.
I know I'm getting into slightly bigger biceps territory, but
no, it's okay.
It actually try it out. It really helps. Just
because someone has taken over a category doesn't mean you can talk about it. You know, there are merits talking about it for sure.
Right. And be honest about what you're lacking in. Tell the truth to yourself. मैंने देखा इतने सारे लोग इंस्टाग्राम ट्विटर पे मेंटल हेल्थ एडवोकेट्स बनते हैं, बट वो फिर नेगेटिव बातें करते हैं, like shit on other people, and just spend the energy on the wrong things. Spend the emotional and spiritual energy on the wrong things.
I also think Instagram is not your therapist. You should really consult a therapist. for
Absolutely.
people to do that. Na?
Therapy really helps, yeah.
Yeah, like, no, it's like, oh, I'm a mental health advocate, but my mental health is in shambles, so I'm going to talk about it for 30 minutes. Go get therapy, go write in a journal. जो यहाँ क्या होगा करके?
और and what is the opposite of mental health advocate? मतलब बाकी लोग जो हैं वो कह रहे हैं कि खराब करो.
I don't know. Like I actually,
everybody is a mental health. Everybody wants to, in some ways, improve their own or like improve their own mental health, improve their own happiness, and people around them.
I also enjoy the other side of mental health, where everything is fucked. There's a strange kind of joy in that as well. And I'm not saying something Machiavellian here, but like, oh, like if you can embrace everything is fucked. And not going to mark Manson territory. Then I love how we have to like disclaim. हम ये नहीं कह रहे, हम ये कह रहे हैं. हम ये नहीं, हम ये कह रहे हैं. That also adds up. Like some friends who are struggling through something in their business and stuff. If you just embrace the suckiness of it together, कि bench match दी बढ़िया यार. Just the relief of that complaint done in private sometimes does more than actively seeking the good thing. I've also found that.
Right, and you can use that. You can use. Say if you have had a tragedy in life, talk about, like, write about it. If you have people who would listen to you, which is great, then talk about it. Listening to a good tragedy, and not just like a story.
I like how you said listening to a good tragedy.
Yeah.
As if it's like a genre on Netflix. Huh?
Yeah, I am getting to that. Like a genre on Netflix or a good book which talks about tragedy.
Yeah.
I think that is very important because it teaches you that like if you tell me about some tragedy that happens in your life, it will also allow me in a very selfish way to feel grateful कि thank God भगवान मेरे साथ ऐसा नहीं हुआ. Yeah. And in fact same way अगर if you think your life is screwed and I tell you about a tragedy in my life, and you will also think कि यार हाँ चलो ये तो नहीं हुआ मेरे life में.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Perspective is a very powerful teacher. That is why I always like dark writers. Because I keep talking about Chuck Palahniuk, but like if you read his books Beyond Fight Club or कोई और किताब पढ़ी हो, Choke, Survivor, बहुत सारी हैं. He talks about his writing technique and he says, I make it so horrible, so horrible, and then just when you think, oh, here comes the ribbon moment where everything gets better, I make it even worse. So he provides no relief.
Right.
And then that strange, because it's like you're at the orgasmic point where like, oh, finally kuch hoga. You implode, and that implosion, what that does is, it frees you up in strange ways.
Right.
You feel like, oh, aisa bhi ho sakta hai. You can exist in that tension. He never releases tension, and this is something that I think. This is something that we should learn, because I hate like things. Okay, सब कुछ end में सही हो गया. It's such a boring thing to do in stories, right? Tie up all the knots.
Right.
कि like जो start करा था उसे बंद करो. नहीं,
ऐसा होता नहीं है.
हाँ, so which is why I think कि the other
rom-comism. Ted Lasso calls it rom-comism. This show.
Who is Ted Lasso? I've heard many things about him.
It's a show in which American football coach he coaches a soccer team, British football, like general football.
So NFL का बंदा football सिखाता है.
Football सिखाता है UK के कोई club को.
But he's NFL.
So you'll get why that happens. That is also part of the story.
Oh, because he learn वो football समझता है and then.
नहीं, it's more complicated.
Okay,
but it's a good show. I recommend it.
Yeah.
अच्छा, एक और चीज़ है. I think Manu Joseph mentioned this that some people make certain ailments part like their entire personality. Like some people talk only about rape, for example, as he said.
Yeah.
Some people make mental health, like bad mental health, anxiety, part of their personality. यही हूँ मैं. उनका पूरा Instagram page या उनका पूरा social media profile is based on that.
Yeah.
Now that makes it much harder to get out of it then, because you've invested so much in it in a way.
These roles are very dangerous.
Very dangerous. They manifest in very dangerous ways.
Yeah, and like suddenly, again, do tragedies exist? Yes. Do bad things happen? Yes. Should we talk about them? Yes.
Yes.
The fine line is and also it makes you, for some people I'm sure like वो बोलते होंगे वाह mental health advocate है इससे बात करते हैं. You pick up a buzzword casually based on something bad that happened to you. Suddenly you are at the behest, at the mercy of the internet who thinks you're a safe space to talk about stuff. You're not even trained. Suddenly तुम्हें messages आ रहे हैं हमारे साथ भी ऐसा हुआ, and like you have all this role and responsibility. And then you get delusional ideas कि अब मैं इन लोगों का मसीहा बन जाऊंगा या मसीहा बन जाऊंगी. and then you're stuck. Same with body image. So that if you are fat and you're like, I'm all about body positivity, so much of our identity is now invested in being fat.
Exactly. Exactly.
And you've been there, brother.
I've
you know?
been there, yeah.
It's like if you I'm so glad that you're older because you don't have to go through that. Like जब ये phase आ रहा था और naive enough to understand कि अगर मैं ये कर लूँगा ना तो इस चक्कर में at least I'll get some part of the internet to like be with me.
Yeah.
But then I will have to be fat forever.
Right. Right.
And some people have genuine scars on their body. Some people have like gynecomastia or some shit like that where men always have moves they can like all that shit happens. Yeah. But still मतलब क्या मिल रहा है ये ऐसे करके? There are better ways, which is why I think it's very important that when you're younger to not make a role your identity on the internet. Absolutely. Because you will have to live to it till your end days. Exactly. And you will hate yourself. Yeah.
I was listening to Kanan Gill talk about this. He said that when media companies have to market you, they want to only portray a certain kind of personality. He's like, we are more complicated than that as popular people, but wo media company ko wahi portray karna hai because that's what sells. That's a simplistic idea. Like, for example, with Kanan Gill, it could be like a sexy male comedian. That could be his. There could be like 10 million other things to him.
Yeah.
But उनको वैसे portray करना है. तो that वो एक cycle बन जाती है eventually. कि वो बिकता है उससे तुम्हें पैसे आ रहे हैं वो type of personality से तो continue doing that.
Yeah. Do you struggle with that? Like even though you do your podcast part time, like when people introduce you are a podcaster bhi hai, like do you feel, because I'm asking this to you as a fellow podcaster, do you feel like okay now time to don my podcaster hat on, अब podcasting की बातें करेंगे?
It's a good question. सोचा नहीं मैंने actually कभी. But I try not to attach labels. जब मैंने शुरू किया था तब I think somebody introduced me as an economist because I have some training in economics and I've written about economics. Yeah. But again, I don't like to get attached to that label. Even podcaster, I don't like to get attached to that label.
Yeah. Have you met other podcasters? It's a very weird industry, no? Like just like आप भी podcast करते हो. I just haven't had any colleagues per se. Because I mean, you can be a hairdresser and have other hairdresser colleagues. You can be a businessman, but like it's just there isn't like an ecosystem where like a bunch of podcasters are meeting. Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah, in a way, it is good. Like in any art, if you start having a community of people who you always hang out with, फिर तुम्हारा वो थोड़ा वो Me Too वाली हो जाएगा ना? As in, everybody will start thinking the same ideas. Yeah. If you like constantly hang out with the same people, you will have similar ideas. So it's good to have like a diverse set of friends, including podcasters.
Yeah.
जैसे हम बात कर रहे हैं, we're like connecting on so many things.
Yeah. It's the Nassim Nicholas Taleb quote from The Bed of Procrustes. If you hang out with the classes, you will make no money. If you hang out with the masses, you will make all the money in the world, which is true.
Absolutely. Your podcast with Puneet Superstar reminded me of this. Yeah. There's so much to learn from Puneet Superstar.
Yeah, but I also here's what happens. If you hang out with all the cool people, let's just say, for example, you're like, I will move to this fancy neighborhood and suddenly यहाँ जितने बड़े दिग्गज हैं इन सबसे मैं दोस्ती करूँगा, I will learn their ways and I will fit in. Suddenly you're caged. Because now you're at the mercy of their opinions. Now the high school fickle cool crew has caught you again.
Right.
And you're no longer free. तो फिर तुम फंस जाओ उसके अंदर, यार इसके बारे में नहीं बोल सकते, ये नहीं कर सकते, ये उसकी लॉबी है, ये वाली बात नहीं कर सकते because XYZ आंटी नाराज हो जाएंगी, all that jazz.
Absolutely, which is also why interesting, provocative ideas are not coming out of academia.
In India?
I think all over the world. In fact, जैसे Jordan Peterson का example हो गया, उसने थोड़ा कुछ अलग बोल दिया, तो his organization got pissed off. उसने बोल दिया कि नहीं मैं ये pronouns नहीं use करूँगा, या actually मैं करूँगा but I can't be forced to use it.
Yeah.
He went outside of that group think and he got like screwed over in some ways. He benefited from it in a lot of ways.
Tremendously, yeah.
But yeah, that's what an organization, like being constantly in an organization as a free thinker or as an artist does to you. You have to succumb to groupthink because तुम्हें भी आगे बढ़ना है लाइफ में, पैसे कमाने हैं, प्रमोट होना है, वो सब.
Yeah, मुझे भी ऐसा लगता है. But you know what? You have to choose what part of your life will be devoid of groupthink. Because if you're like कि नहीं मैं, there are merits to not exactly groupthink. I think I would place it differently. Like you have to realize what parts of your life you will lead normally, socialized तरीके से. What parts of your life will you be contrarian in or rebel against? वो बड़ा ज़रूरी है. Like,
actually, that's a great point. Yeah.
You know, because if you're like कि मैं ना नंगा घूमूंगा, न्यूडिज्म करूंगा यहाँ इंडिया, तो लाइक you're like अच्छा ठीक है कर ले, बट तेरे बाकी सारे सीन सॉर्टेड है क्या? नहीं मैं हर जगह ही ऐसा हूँ. So it's just going to be hard.
That's great nuance actually, because you have to learn from others' mistakes as well. Obviously,
yeah,
you have to learn you will learn from people around you. You can't avoid that. We're not like perfect. We can't be perfectly contrarian at everything.
I would love to, practice nudism even in my private space and do all this like health benefits for sunning your balls and stuff, but I cannot. Like here, like whatever. So okay, ठीक है, यहाँ हम socialized रहेंगे. भाई यहाँ सारे लोग चाय पी रहे हैं तो मैं चाय पी लूँगा. मैं हर जगह अपने डेट चावल अलग नहीं पका सकता. There are no, after a point you just become a nuisance. So to really find like what is worth dying for, what is worth working for.
Right. There is an account I think on Twitter called Snake Oil Salesman.
I've interacted with him a bunch. Yeah.
I think he had a brilliant tweet, and I don't remember the exact words, but there was something. It was something around ki be like जो करना है करो for most things, but be like नहीं ऐसे ही करना है for few things. Like find your things that you are like very particular about. Be chill and everything else.
Forget the author who made the quote: "Be disciplined and orderly in your life, so you can be violent and original in your work." Which is, I think a good trope. One thing I like about Eminem, I saw this from one of Akon's interviews, is like he treats his rap career like a job. So he's like, कब से स्टूडियो सुबह 9 बजे आता है, एक ऑन बोलता है अच्छा ये वाले बार कहता है ये लंच के बाद ड्रॉप करूँगा, बार का ड्रॉप करता है 5 PM इज लेफ्ट. एक ऑन कह रहा है बहन मैं 400 दिन स्टूडियो में बैठा रहता हूँ, ये आदमी कैसा है? तो for if you can do that, right, it just makes your life better. And I think like if we talk about high performance, a lot of you follow Joe Rogan and the others, there are a lot of like high performing males. There are females as well. Like for example, we follow more males that we're attracted to. हम एक चीज़ नहीं देखते कि to get to that place where you can talk about, say, destabilizing the world economy casually on a podcast, you have to stabilize all other parts of your life,
right,
so that your words have consequence, have meaning.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One, this is probably a tangent, but this is my issue with a lot of this hustle content creator group of people. They give simplistic solutions to complicated problems.
Correct.
And they don't talk about their experiences. Like a lot of their experiences, which even they don't realize, have shaped their not just their experiences, their environment, their luck. इतना कुछ उनके लिए अच्छा हुआ है that they were able to do these good things. But they will just give like one reason why they were able to do a good thing. Like and this is why I'm very skeptical of giving advice right now. Like I said, practice gratitude, but I will also say that like try out different things. Like even मेडिटेशन के 10 तरीके होते हैं. अपने लिए ट्राई करो, शॉपिंग करो, स्पिरिचुअल शॉपिंग करो, देखो क्या what works for you after.
That's a good word, spiritual shopping. Yeah. I bet someone smart can make a whole career out of it. Come to my spiritual mart. यहाँ सब मिलता है, crystals मिलते हैं, tarot cards मिलते हैं, हर चीज़ मिलती है.
एक ऐप भी है इसके लिए, इनसाइट टाइमर, उसमें सब टाइप की मेडिटेशंस मिलती हैं.
Yeah. So which are the ones that you practice?
So I went to a Buddhist meditation retreat in Dharamshala. It's called Tushyata Meditation Center, that place. It has a 10-day retreat. It teaches you principles of Tibetan Buddhism, which are very... Anybody can understand it. Like it's like a philosophy class.
Yeah.
You don't have to ritualize it, apart from the ritual of meditation. So I went for that. I learned meditation there. Then I started learning more types of meditation through YouTube. Right now I practice mindfulness meditation, which is just shutting my eyes, sitting quietly and analyzing my breath. And any thoughts that come in, I recognize them कि हाँ मैं सोच रहा हूँ कि आज विनम्र की पॉडकास्ट में मैं क्या बात करूँगा. जैसे ये थॉट आई थी आज सुबह, तो हाँ तो ठीक है, it comes, I recognize कि ये exist करती है, and then let it go.
Yeah.
You don't have to act on every thought.
That's true. Yeah. It's a very dangerous thing to act on every thought.
Yeah. So that meditation, that sitting for those 10-20 minutes, whatever you can do, gives those thoughts some kind of an audience. I don't know how to explain it actually, but your probably conscious self can recognize those thoughts कि हाँ ये exist करती है. Otherwise, if you don't do that, maybe those thoughts can control you. and then you can maybe take actions based on those thoughts without thinking about them.
Yeah, that does tend to happen. Yeah, that does tend to happen, especially if you're inebriated, where you're more vulnerable to taking stupid decisions. Because क्या होता है? What is it like? Carl Jung said that people don't have ideas have them. You can be gripped by thoughts, right? It's like ऐसा होता है ना, there are competing forces among us. This is a popular idea that Nietzsche talked about. कि there are too many competing forces inside you. Then Freud and Jung came in. ऐसा ही होता है. This is the same with thoughts as well. You will have thoughts about how great this is. You will have thoughts about this is a total waste of time, whatever it is, right? And they're all vying for your attention. And to be able to understand कि ये सब सिर्फ they are suggestions, mere suggestions, or just like, it's funny that you did the 10-day thing. I think 10 days is just maybe the right amount that a lot of people in the world have learned. क्योंकि जब मैंने 10 दिन उपासना करी थी, फट गई थी यार. मतलब आदमी, you can go to the extremes with your mind, and your mind is still such an asshole. फिर भी बक कुछ ना कुछ. It's just because you cannot live without patterns. You constantly need to have a script running in your head. कि ये है इसलिए attribute reasons for something happening just constantly. The other kind of meditation that I think people can do free is immersion in nature. There's a thing called forest bathing. So something like 3 hours in a public park is very helpful, but then half a day is even better, and then one day it resets something. And ho sakta hai ye galat ho, because I heard this on a podcast with Ben Greenfield, but I've tried this. For example, when I went to Mangar Hodge, right, didn't really check my phone, but if you think about it, in this room there is so much electronic stimulus competing for our attention. There are the lights, there's the camera, there's the ye sab, hai na? When you're out in nature, it's just unstopped tree line or unstopped rocks. So it's just more relaxing for your sight as well. Kind of natural. So you can do all the things you want there, but just being out in nature, that is also a kind of meditation that I realized. And I could be wrong, but definitely, just my own anecdotal experience.
No, I agree. It does wonderful things to you to just walk in nature. There is some energy to that trees which is beyond your vision, which you can't see, which comes to you when you walk around them.
Yeah. I had a funny moment. One of my friends, he was climbing with me yesterday. I'd taken him there for the first time, and he was like, "I can hear the waterfall." I'm like, "Chal, dekh ke aate, kahan pe hai?"
Mangar mein? Yeah, you can hear the waterfall there, but apparently there is no waterfall.
मैं बताता हूँ.
Yeah.
Because it was a lesson. Like ऐसा होता है, like Karate Kid में I'm like Mr. Miyagi, and I see what the lesson is. I'm about to teach him that lesson. मैंने कहा चलो ये चीज़ करते हैं. We're both like fucking around, ठीक है? तो he's like, oh wow, मैं झरने के पास जा रहा हूँ. Natural exploratory urge kicks in. He goes.
Right.
कह रहा झरना कहाँ है? मैंने कहा ऊपर देख. It's high powered lines.
Yeah.
वहाँ पे वो phone की वो लगी हुई है ना.
Yeah.
It's so depressing and it's so disheartening to see that what you thought is actual running water is just electricity running through those wires on the top.
Right. In fact, that's fascinating. So if I were there, I would not like somebody to tell me कि वो wires है, because I want that illusion.
Yes.
Because that just improves my experience mentally.
Yeah. No, he was very heartbroken. उसको बहुत दुख सा हुआ. And he was not buying it. मैंने कहा सुन, यहाँ आके देख ले. But it's just weird. Like for people who live in Gurgaon, Delhi, Faridabad, even the most isolated place in nature still has a lot of civilization in it. Like, have you ever been camping?
I have been camping, yeah.
Where?
I've been to treks where I've camped.
Achha. You're out there, no signal, kuch bhi nahi?
No signal, yeah.
I've never done that. What is that like?
It's very peaceful. Obviously it's very peaceful. You realize after a point of time, similar with like sugar, caffeine, that your phone controls so much of you, like your notifications, for example, your Instagram, and then you get detached from it.
Where did you go?
I went for a couple of treks to this place called Brigu Lake in Himachal, Hamta Pass in Himachal. I highly recommend those experiences. I had a weird experience as a teenager. I almost died while trekking.
Oh shit.
उसके बाद मुझे ना थोड़ा सा एक mental blockage हो गया था against going trekking, doing anything like that is physically exerting.
Yeah.
Then I, overcame that. I realized I have to overcome it actually, because there was a blockage in a lot of other things. So I decided कि boss ये एक trek है हमटा पास में. When I was 19 I was like I have to do it. फिर now I had that goal and फिर मैं 2 महीना I gymmed just so that I could go there. And I was able to do it thankfully. And that was transformative in a lot of ways for me, that I realized how important your your physical health is.
Yeah.
I didn't realize earlier.
Yeah, it really shows when क्योंकि ना someone I know is a movement instructor. He told me you have to be really useful with your body. I didn't really get it till the time you have to carry someone who's unconscious, and you realize how important strength is.
Absolutely.
And if you don't have strength, and for example everyone looks at you कि यही कर सकता है, and you can't do it, you're like fuck.
Yeah.
This is what I did not prepare for, and the worst has happened. Thankfully I had to carry someone unconscious from one place to the other. I could do it, but फट गई थी. And after that I was like, bro, इसमें जाना पड़ेगा, because ये कभी भी किसी के साथ भी हो सकता है. It's very important to have presence of mind.
Yeah.
And get your way out of like tricky situations. But in some equations it boils down to who is the strongest.
Absolutely.
Physically.
Absolutely.
And even though we live lives where we're like cushioned in various ways, one of the reasons why trekking, climbing, fasting, or any of these mentally tough disciplines are important is because they help us simulate actual death or life situations, actual जो वो नहीं होता fight or flight mode.
Absolutely. Like deadlifting, it is such a natural movement. You pick somebody up, you pick something. Deadlifting, and also shoulder pressing or even squatting.
Yeah. You've recently tried to use maces, right?
Maces.
Gada जो होता है हनुमान जी वाला.
Yeah.
So what do you do with that? Like, you just go like this?
Yeah, you swing it. Like if you use dumbbells and you've done, or kettlebells and you've done kettlebell halos, which is like a movement like this.
Yeah.
So you swing it around, and it is traditionally used by men and women in akhadas, mostly men in akhadas of India. It's traditional weight, is a resistance movement के लिए equipment. One advantage it has over, say, for example, if you're doing shoulder presses for your shoulder, that is a 2-dimensional movement.
Yeah.
Upar niche. This is a 3-dimensional movement. So you rotate your gada or mudgar, whatever you want to call it.
What is the other word?
Mugdar, I think.
Mugdar. Is that a Hindi word?
I think so. There are multiple, like if you go on Amazon and you search for it, there's multiple words for it. Gada, Karla Katai, Hanuman something. There are a lot of words for it. But yeah, it also helps in mobility. So you are moving your shoulder joints in a circular manner. So it helps in mobility as well, which is not the case with a simple shoulder press.
Yeah, my shoulders are fucked. I should try it out.
Yeah.
Because I think shoulder presses के अंदर my shoulders click, both of them. I have some tendonitis here. But I think that seems, मुझे भी ऐसे ही लगता है कि the real answer for all of us is to start with gyms and then arrive at whatever movements our ancestors did.
Right.
Carrying is a big one.
Carrying is a big one.
And not just walking. Because walking is standard, but like carrying loads for heavy distances, that's something our ancestors did.
Absolutely. I try to do that also, like दोनों हाथ में dumbbells और अपने, I live on the 12th floor. I try to climb from ground floor to 12th floor, dumbbells हाथ में. That's actually a fantastic full body strength exercise. You can start off with what? 2.5
you climb stairs.
I climb stairs. Yeah, दोनों हाथ में dumbbells. You can start with like as simple as that, 2 kilos, 2.5 kilos. एक पता है issue है when some people want to start off with like being perfect. That stops them from trying out new things. अगर तुमने पूरी life, like if you've scored like 99 in everything, फिर तुम्हें लगेगा कि अब मैं ये gymming start कर रहा हूँ suddenly and I'm like lifting 2.5 kilos, everybody's lifting 10 kilos. What the hell? So you're not used to being that. You're not used to being that learner. That happens with a lot of people I've seen who are toppers, who are like always achieved significantly well in conventional metrics in school.
Yeah, the best cure for high achievement is getting your ass kicked in other fields. मैं तो वही करता हूँ. And I think, when you were saying इससे पहले offline कि like what is the consequence of running this podcast and doing this, one of them is that you really don't have challenges after a while, right? At least in this domain. So then it's necessary to do that whole like Buddha Siddhartha thing, to go and find challenges, to go and find purposeful suffering, like climbing.
Right.
Of all the climbers present there yesterday, I was like at the closest, quite close to the bottom of the hierarchy. And that's very humbling. I can humor my way through stuff, ki haan, ye wo falana timkana, but at the end of the day, they're just better physical specimen and they kick your ass. and अच्छा ठीक है हमारी यहाँ चुत गई हम नहीं कर सकते कुछ. That I think I also think that the most successful people understand the perils of the ego, and that's what they do. They do activities that allow you to get in that beginner's mindset wali mentality.
Absolutely.
When I talked to you about the mace, you were like, मैंने अभी शुरू ही करा है. But I'm so glad that you were able to talk about it because when you first started, you don't always at it. But so you do a farmer's stair walk basically. That's what you do.
Farmer's stair walk. Yeah.
And farmer's walk is just walking.
Yeah, you just do that on stairs. You can start off with again less weights, but it's a very helpful full body exercise.
Do you ever hang? Have you tried hanging?
Or like a pull-up bar?
Like a pull-up bar, just hanging for long hours.
I recently installed a pull-up bar in my house, and it's been fantastic. I try hanging. I try doing pull-ups. मेरे से नहीं होते थे पहले. Now I'm able to do few.
Yeah, I'm really trying to find a device where I can hang upside down.
Upside down.
Without using my, क्योंकि पार्क में वो एक दो डंडे नहीं होते where you do the dips. Right. So you can prop both of your feet on one of the rods and hang like that.
Yeah.
क्योंकि मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि no matter what you do, you don't fully decompress your spine unless unless तुम उल्टे होते हो. Because even when you're hanging, this is normal. This is pretty मतलब मुझे ऐसा लगता है. So I've just been trying to figure out ways to do it. For example, मैं इस टेबल पे लेट के कभी ऐसे आधा नीचे लटक जाता हूँ. There's a machine for that, but it's very expensive. I can't find a machine, so I'm just trying to find natural ways to do it.
मतलब your legs are in the air and your head is down.
Yes.
What benefits does it have?
For instance, the biggest benefit that I see is as soon as I get up, I have more oxygen in my torso. I'm more centered. Right. I also do this thing called bioenergetics. I don't know if you know about it.
No, I don't.
It's half oxygenation, half eliminate the ritual from this Eastern thing and just. Guy called Elliot Hulse, pretty controversial on YouTube, has been been there for a while. But एक बंदा था, some scientist called Alexander Lowen. He discovered that. Okay, so छोटी सी कहानी इसके अंदर ये है कि some people came to therapists complaining of how trauma manifests in their body in specific parts of their body. So if you have, say, vocal, जैसे तुमने कुछ बोलने की कोशिश करी तो मैं चुप करा दिया गया, so it just manifests as a pain in your throat or somewhere else. People often talk about how depression is a black pit in your stomach, all those things, right?
Right.
So this guy was like, why don't we use ways to... So Alexander Lowen believes कि तुम्हारी body के अंदर unprocessed emotion then manifests as pain. And if you can release that using some kind of exercises and oxygenating those parts, you can arrive at a better state. You can kind of like do एक तरह की strange therapy on yourself, but it's very cathartic. Think like you Osho ki dynamic meditation when there's crying and there's some kind of a tension release or anger release at the end.
I've done that, yeah.
You've done that, right?
Yeah, it's in a way with my therapist in some form.
Yeah. जैसे कि there used to be a popular pop culture like therapy in the 60s called primal screaming, where people would believe कि तुम्हारे अंदर का जो the primal nature of you is just waiting. वो अंदर है तो उसे चीख के बाहर निकालो. मैं गाड़ी में करता हूँ. It's great. Turn the full volume up. But because I also think हम realize नहीं करते. If you meet a lot of people, if you're always in all social customs, there's something in you that's just like more animalistic that just is muted. So what this does is you're breathing very heavily with your mouth open. The first release exercise is you bend yourself in a bow like that, ऐसे, and you look up or you look straight, and as you breathe, your entire body vibrates. ऐसे जैसे पूरी energy कहीं ना कहीं से आ रही है.
Wow.
And the immediate release is, for some people it's crying, for some people it's screaming. I always scream. I'm always angry, but it's कुछ ऐसा होता है, like something unreleased has now been released, ऐसा कुछ. But the other part of this routine beyond this release is just oxygenating different parts of your body so that you're ready for movement throughout the day. I'll send you a link. I think you'll enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. I have a question for you. So you've studied in the US.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about so many practices which have some Indic origin, which have been made sexy by the US.
Yeah.
What are they doing right that we are not able to, or we can't? For example, if I want to make millet sexy the way people have made, not just me, anybody wants to do that in India, the way people have made quinoa sexy. How do we do that, in your opinion?
I think we have more preachers than educationists. हमारे यहाँ दिक्कत ये है.
Difference क्या है?
preacher मतलब हमारे यहाँ ना मतलब पता क्या होता है, preaching falls onto deaf ears mostly, especially if you're like a generation past. जैसे अगर आप आस्था टीवी या सत्संग वगैरह आप लोगों ने देखे, मुझे वो लगता है वो preachers का residue अभी भी रह गया है. So that if you grow up around it, you're skeptical. So as soon as someone starts spouting wisdom at you, you're like मेरे को नहीं सुनना, भाड़ में जा जो भी कुछ है. The other, it's a tough problem, so I don't really know what the answer is. The other thing is कि
that's fair, it's okay.
It really has to come from if someone transforms themselves through these practices and then talks about it. मतलब सबसे बड़ी irony क्या है, जैसे हमारे PT टीचर होते थे स्कूल के, है कि नहीं?
That's yeah.
तो Wednesday यूनिफॉर्म में ऐसे करा रहे, ये करा रहे, अंकल की पॉट बेली है, can't even fucking touch his feet, you know, touch his toes. तो वो irony दिख जाती है, तो you're already like यार मैं ये करूँगा नहीं. So we all in India we preach from a hypocritical place more than say in other parts of in the world, and I could be wrong.
वो हेलो नहीं है तो वो तुम्हारे टीचर का which needs to be there, like you need to have some level of respect for your PT teacher to be able to get into the physical sports or physical.
Yeah, and I think we respect our teachers. हमारे कंट्री में तो है religion, मतलब पूरा सिस्टम है ना रिस्पेक्ट करने का टीचर्स को, यहाँ तो सारा सिस्टम ही है, पर वो जो दिया जा रहा है it's more preachy, it isn't as practical. मतलब the other thing also is like there is no real merit. No, it also comes down to like America has achieved the quality of life, so now it can do all these crazy optimization, longevity बढ़ा लेते हैं, चलो gut bacteria साफ कर लेते हैं, मतलब वो उस तरह की problems पे focus कर सकते हैं, for instance, right? Our problems are just different. Like it has to take like a private alchemist biohacker like you or me to talk about it on a public podcast कि आपने अपने शरीर का क्या क्या एक्सपेरिमेंट करे, मैंने ये करा है, but like your education, your immersion in this has been mostly private, seeing people on the internet, reading about stuff, trying on your own, maybe discussing with a few friends who are willing to listen,
right?
But it's just been private, no?
Right. So couple of things. So a lot of knowledge around gut bacteria, around digestion is there in India in Ayurveda. Ayurveda is all about digestion. Like if you want to just say one line about Ayurveda, it's about digestion.
वो जो कफा पिता और वाता वाला.
हाँ. The entire thing, like 75% is on digestion, on how certain foods react with your gut and how with your body and how that can have an effect on your body. And again, it varies from people to people. तो but वही है कि वो उसको sexy modern तरीके से sell करना, that's a challenge which the US has done well with yoga. A lot of people practice yoga in India because US ने वो popular कर दिया. US has made that sexy.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Second thing, I think I'm very grateful, and all of us who've been able to do such private experiments should be grateful. अगर हमारा say probably my father या my grandfather, उनके goals थे कि नहीं बस मेरे को family को अच्छे से feed करना है, या I want to reach a certain economic stature. I have to only optimize for that. They were not able to do it. So a lot of us who have the luxury of spending like 1 घंटा say every day or 3-4 hours every week on these things, we are able to use our mind space for these things. I think we should be very grateful for that. And more people, as India's economic power grows, there will be more people like us who are able to do that.
US sorry, please go on.
I was just replying to the point you made about the US now, they are an economic power, so they're able to get into these things. So individually, India, maybe a lot of people have decent economic power to be able to direct their time resources towards these things.
Yeah.
Without like the need for immediate economic gain. अच्छा, एक और theory है which Devdutt Bhatnagar talks about. So he talks about, on a slight tangent, that why doesn't India produce path-breaking startups or companies the way the US does? His hypothesis is that Hinduism में and in general in Indic thought, we advocate for santushti. We advocate for कि तुम be content with your life. And ambition requires a level of sorrow, a level of
unhappiness with the state of things.
Yes, unhappiness with the state of things, displeasure with the state of things that you want to change it.
Yeah. How do you exist in this India then? because I feel very incompatible myself with the Santushti hypothesis. That's a Santushti hypothesis. Because you're right. Have you ever felt, and this you don't have to answer it, like sometimes there isn't place for ambitions in the people when you are hanging out with the people in your life. Sometimes you feel your ambitions are incompatible with the natural state of being that others are in.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because I felt that, like, for example, I'm always told to relax and take a break and like, koi baat nahi, things will mystically, magically happen. I'm glad for that immersion in the US, where we also have to realize that the US is built, unka jo pura foundation hai is like, they arrived in Plymouth, Massachusetts. Young kids, 20-somethings, pissed off with the Queen. So their entire hypothesis, what it's built on is sovereignty, exploration, ambition, banana cheese. One of my friends has a joke, like if you want to see someone over-explain anything in a video, chances are they're American. So true.
Right.
किसी भी चीज़ को over-explain करके समझाना होता है ना. Like for example, if you have like, say Neeraj Chopra throwing a javelin, he'll just go throw it. Example ले रहा हूँ, right?
Yeah.
American 15 मिनट की वीडियो होगी. Hey guys, welcome. आज हम बात करेंगे तो ये javelin है, ये वो वाला javelin है जो मैंने यहाँ से लिया है, वैसे आप ये ट्राई कर सकते हो. तो मैं और अपनी पर्सनल 15 मिनट एक चीज़ करेगा. But they're just so their natural state, and I'm using a massive generalization, is to go, do things, attack, conquer, चीज़ें ये करना. हमारे यहाँ पे you're so right, like it's just Sudhir Kakkar, who's an Indian psychoanalyst, he wrote this book in the 70s or 80s called The Inner World, a psychoanalytic study of childhood in India. And he says, most Indians don't really care about the time. अब तो बदल गया है थोड़ा सा with the internet, Jio, COVID, Paytm, ये जो भी कुछ आए, all these things. But you can just sit under a tree for hours and do nothing. And that is your day. The other thing that I think is very weird for us is some of us who haven't learned any productivity literature or don't know about calendars, who haven't worked at big companies, whatever comes first in your vision or your purview is the most important thing. कि सुनो हम वहाँ जा रहे हैं, चलो मैं भी चलता हूँ साथ में. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And existing कि ये मेरा vision है, मुझे ये करना है, और a sense of purpose is just submitted to whatever is happening around you. Not all of us. I mean, you certainly want to go do things. You have your individual goals, but I don't think individual goals or having a vision or a grounding sense of purpose is, I think it's a luxury for a lot of people in this country, or they just don't know.
Absolutely. It's definitely a luxury. Achha, while we were discussing this, I came up with a hypothesis, the 80-20 hypothesis. You can be संतुष्ट and content about 80% of your life, as we discussed earlier. कि ठीक है, जैसा चल रहा है, जो लोग कर रहे हैं मैं कर लूँगा, follow everything, don't have to be contrarian, go with the flow. But for 20%, be mad. Like, choose your own goals, don't listen to people, don't fall into the mimetic path, and just do your own thing. Be wild, be crazy, be an artist for those 20%.
How are you so well read and articulate?
I don't know. One hypothesis that I enjoy reading, and I only read what I enjoy. So I don't read things just because they are popular or cool. One way to read good books for me is to listen to podcasts with the authors. And get a preview कि हाँ ये बंदा अच्छा है. I would like to know more. I would like to get into his mind. And then what has helped me articulate myself better is again meditation. Because
surprisingly, so your articulation has become better by shutting up.
Yes, because I'm able to organize my thoughts better. Because वो बहुत scattered thoughts होती हैं और बहुत कचरा होता है माइंड में. तो वो कचरे को थोड़ा सा सेग्रीगेट करके, जैसे आजकल महंगी कॉलोनीज में करते हैं कि प्लास्टिक एक साइड, नॉन बायोडिग्रेडेबल एक साइड, बायोडिग्रेडेबल एक साइड, वैसे माइंड को भी थोड़ा सेग्रीगेट कर सकते हो कि ये कचरा है और ये maybe things worth pursuing or thinking.
Yeah. Do you have a ritual before starting a podcast? An episode?
As in immediately before?
Immediately before.
Maybe meditate. Or do some kind of pranayam.
Or exercise.
Exercise, yeah. Exercise is not necessary if it's depending on the schedule, but I always do meditation and pranayam before. Some kind of pranayam like Nadi Shodha pranayam, which is alternate nasal breathing, or Kapalbhati, or I'm even trying out Wim Hof breathing. Yeah.
you can get to very powerful places with Wim Hof breathing mentally.
Absolutely.
You know?
The first time I did it, I felt like high in a way.
Yeah. No, he says that. It's like, tumhe aisi high kar dunga main.
Yeah.
It's in a strange way, he reminds me a lot of like that. He has the same twinkle in his eye that I see in Ramdev's eyes.
Oh.
Yeah, it's just a strange observation. He's like, oh. Anyway, but...
Do you have a pre-podcast ritual?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I meditate. When I was waiting for you to come, I was just... well, it's confusing because दो conflicting चीज़ थी. मेरे को sunlight भी लेनी थी अपनी आँखों पे और मुझे meditate भी करना था. I just sat down and just had my coffee. I learned this from... who's the guy who's written... अरे यार उसका नाम, it's right on the tip of my tongue. Neil Strauss. Neil Strauss is an author. He's written quite a lot of successful books, but he's also an interviewer because his practice is in journalism. Mm-hmm. So he said something. He's like, when I go do interviews, I always make an intention that I'm going to meet the highest version of this person and make them meet the highest version of myself. Not like tum nashe mein ho, but just like whatever is your, what your soul aspires to, kind of like that. So setting that attention, but I can't always do it. Sometimes I'm just diving straight into podcasts without, मतलब मैं उठाई हूँ वो चीज़ करने के लिए, and like that is challenging because like, okay, now you have all this clutter, but I think all of this gets better with iteration. Have my podcast been better when I meditated? Absolutely. Is it evident? I don't think so. So it's tough, but मुझे ऐसा भी लगता है कि if you treat it as craft, there are merits to it. Like think about it, when you started, you did your first episode versus say the last episode, right? Massive difference.
Massive,
yeah. So I also think the other thing with podcasting is you can get away with a lot of stupid things and don't even know what you said, but it's like a muscle, you know? Ki the more you do it, the better it gets.
Bilkul.
Hai na? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on podcasting. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, for you it's different because you do seasons. Does that help? Like, are you like in between seasons? Are you planning content categories? Because you have like your co-host Sadaf, and you do it differently, where you decide कि हम एक issue पे बात करेंगे. Let's talk about this particular food, and then you guys chime in with your well-read opinions on those. But what happens between seasons? What happens between episodes?
So this is the first time we've taken a break.
थोड़ा सा mic pass कर देना जरा.
So this is the first time we've taken a break. इससे पहले we were doing episodes continuously for 50 plus weeks.
50, almost a year.
Almost a year.
Yeah.
More than a year. So I think what truly makes your art, which could be your writing, which could be your podcasting, interesting, is the things you do outside of outside of the internet. So वो हमें थोड़ी break चाहिए थी क्योंकि it was just happening every week. We were not looking at it from an outside perspective. Now we have that break. Now we can look at it from an outside perspective, get more ideas. When you're doing something regularly that often does not allow you to do it. You can still do it, but it's good to take a break from it and come back to it.
I think a lot of aspiring podcasters also tune into Dostcast. I think they will benefit from, because you guys are the number one India mein food wala podcast, right, on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah, when we were we were listing out episodes, when we were getting out episodes.
Those charts are very fickle, but like the fact that you were there for a while means a lot. A lot of people tune into you.
I'll be very honest with you, and this is not fake modesty. जब मैंने start किया था podcast, it was just, 2 friends who knew more than base level about food and were also interested in a lot of things to talk about food. Just give us a regular schedule every week, a platform to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe 3-4 लोग सुन लेंगे, मम्मी पापा सुन ले तो अच्छा होगा, 2-3 दोस्त सुन ले तो अच्छा होगा. It'll be nice. So I didn't have too many expectations from it.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me because that helped me keep myself honest, not have like very large ambitions for it.
Yeah.
I have to, I won't say something which ideally should piss off my mother. Like that's one barrier. Not barrier.
मेरे को रोटियां नहीं खिलानी चाहिए थी बचपन में, some shit like that.
No, I go into those territories. That is fine.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like a lot of my decisions are based on that. That would my say parents think it's fine, and not like with the sense that I want their approval. with the sense that am I doing the right thing? Like, am I, say, sucking up to sponsors and censoring my
big food
and censoring my content? Will I be able to? And parents is just like a placeholder for better version of myself in a way, if you get what I'm saying. Will I be able to answer to that person? Then that is in a way a moral compass.
But I see in the podcast that you often play the funny one. You're more conversational.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's unintentional.
Yeah, no, वो हो ही जाता. I think if you're a smart conversationalist, you instantly realize the roles that people occupy in the conversation. And if both people compete for the same thing, that's a battle. And what that does is it's a horrible experience for the listener. So it's I think you have that intuitively where you understand that if someone is getting serious, you automatically make it light. I just pay attention to all of these things because I'm thinking what makes me stick to a podcast.
Right.
And I listen to most Indian podcasts and I will say it, I have no problem saying it, they're bad. You know why they're bad? Because well, what you have going for you is like you have an interesting private life, both of you guys, I hope.
Yeah.
And then you do your research. So what you have is you have all the analytics. जितना भी सब कुछ सामान आके खड़ा हुआ है, now you just have to pick from the pieces and talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So that it's a condensed, fun thing, and I'm always learning new things in every other sentence, which I think is important.
Right.
Yeah.
I think both are important. An agenda in something that we do. Say talk about chanas. If you have to talk about chanas in an episode, it's important to have that agenda so that there are certain guardrails around the conversation.
Yeah.
वो randomly drift नहीं होती और listener को भी पता क्या expect करना है कि हमें चने के round सब चीज़ें मिलेंगी. Now that you have like chana, then you can embrace randomness कि उसके around कोई भी कहानियाँ हो, उसके around कोई भी interesting facts हो, you can talk about. So we embrace that even though we do our research. कुछ नया अनोखा आ गया, कुछ नया idea आया तो हम बोल देते हैं, कुछ joke आया तो बोल देते हैं. We embrace like oftentimes कुछ semi-stupid bhi bola ho, we keep that in the show, because we are humans. We don't want to be perceived as like some news anchors जो सिर्फ facts सिर्फ like blurt out करते हैं.
You're not a food scientist on Aaj Tak.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, it's
I don't want to like be manicured.
और वो अच्छी बात है, and I think we've seen this, especially on the internet now, with all of us growing up and realizing कि यार we don't want another Bollywood on YouTube or on our podcast or whatever else. Like we don't want more हम थक चुके हैं.
Yeah.
Show us your flaws, show us like how तुम कैसे थे, क्या थे, and just like I think it's very, very okay to be absurd, to be stupid, to fully admit to the chinks you have in your armor. You for reasons very obvious, people relate to that on a level. If you're perfect, है ना कि तुम्हारे में कोई भी दिक्कत नहीं है, then you're just a preacher, like someone who's sermonizing. तुम ये करो, तुम वो करो, तुम ऐसा करो, तुम वैसा करो, है ना? तो मुझे इसलिए ये चीज़ बढ़िया लगी कि उसके अंदर इंग्लिश का भी इस्तेमाल होता है. लाइक मतलब हम तो खाने की बात कर रहे हैं, सुनना है सुनो, नहीं तो अपना जाओ. How are you able to? I see your stories, bro. You're eating great food all the time. मेरे को लगता है यार भाई ऐसा नहीं लगता कि यार मैं ज़्यादा खा रहा हूँ या ऐसे, because you've managed to stay fit. And like I've seen some of the food that you eat.
Yeah.
By any account, anyone who's on the path to fitness, they would be like, यार शायद ये नहीं खाते, avoid करते हैं.
जैसे? Can you give me example?
यार जैसे कि कल he went to eat something. Were you eating छोले भटूरे or like some kind of shanks?
No, I was eating. Are you talking about my Twitter post?
I forget. मैंने कहीं देखी थी.
Yesterday I was eating fish.
हाँ.
So yeah, fish is good for you.
No यार छोले भटूरे मैं भूल रहा हूँ. मतलब all I've seen a lot of delectable unhealthy food on your feed is what I'm saying.
That is why I'm asking, because I want to know more about the unhealthy stuff. What is perceived as unhealthy?
अच्छा मतलब बड़े भटूरे. वैसे आज लंच में भटूरे ही हैं.
मैं भटूरे कभी खाया नहीं.
अच्छा.
मैं खाता ही नहीं भटूरे.
Sorry दोस्तों, बुरा मोमेंट हो गया.
छोले के साथ I eat typically बाजरा रोटी या ज्वार रोटी.
हमने भटूरे मंगवाए आज.
कोई नहीं, मैं खा लूंगा.
ठीक है.
मेरे randomness sometimes. But yeah, so I try to eat. There is this perception that healthy चीज़ें tasty नहीं होती, which is not true. घी डालो सब चीज़ों पे, they be very tasty and usually healthy. If you don't eat too much of it, ghee bajra roti with say chicken or with say eggs, that's tasty and healthy. Of course, that is taste is obviously a matter of opinion. But I find most healthy things that I eat tasty. Ayurveda mein, there's an interesting idea that you also consume food with your eyes, and the food you consume, it has to benefit your eyes. Health को तो benefit करना चाहिए, मतलब your gut वगैरह को benefit तो करना चाहिए, ठीक है. Also should benefit your mind, like you should enjoy what you eat.
So it has to be plated nicely.
Not just plated nicely, तुम्हारे मन को भी खुशी मिलनी चाहिए वो खा के. It's not just कि तुम गंदी salads खा रहे हो कीनुआ वाली boiled, कि तुम्हें कि हाँ मुझे I want to optimize for only a healthy gut.
Yeah.
उसमें optimize नहीं करते, उसमें there are multiple facets of life that you want to improve. You want to also enjoy. मन को भी खुशी मिलनी चाहिए खाने से.
हाँ.
पर सिर्फ now if you optimize for only मन की खुशी, then you will have candy all day.
Yeah.
तो सब चीजें like you have to balance out.
Yeah.
Which if you try to follow a diet closer to your ancestors, it helps you do that.
Yeah, I think, but isn't India is not in one of the blue zones of the world?
I am not a fan of that line of thinking, to be honest.
Why?
I follow a different framework. I follow the idea that every micro region is different, and we are wired differently in terms of our guts. So सब लोगों को different खाने suit करते हैं. You can't advocate one size fits all solutions. Actually, you shouldn't, without understanding a person's needs, life, environment, etc. So wo somebody sitting in some university talking about zones, I'm not a fan of that kind of thinking. Top-down thinking.
Yeah, that is a problem, no? Because recently I went to a village for a political rally, and I was very surprised by jitni zyada chai mein wo chini la ke peete hain. But a lot of these people are post-farmers. So they've built houses, they're fine. But jo farmer wali baat thi na, lots of glucose, that's the case. And when I ask, like, barfiyan meethi, chai meethi, and badi mushkil se agar samosa mil gaya to wah yaar, kuch ek wo aaya. But this whole sugar glucose thing, I'm only piecing this together now based on what you were saying, ki if to work out a lot in the fields, it makes sense ki tum itna meetha khaoge, because you can, just go on and on for so long. But मैं फिर भी देखता हूँ in the villages in India by default सबसे कम COVID, सबसे ज़्यादा immunity. One thing I really picked up sitting more in squats from the villages I visited, because a lot of the older men still sit down and squat completely.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And their hips can touch the back of their ankles as well, which is what most people can't do in their squats. Right.
So I was reading this book called Truck the India, I think it's called, by Rajat Udayabakar. I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong. He basically traveled with truckers all over India.
Oh, crazy.
Just like hitchhiked with truckers. And he said that truckers are so comfortable, like it's like a relief for them to sit in a squat. As हम जाके after a tired day we sit on a sofa, like we relax, like they sit in a squat like that, which is an exercise for us.
Because they have to sit all day, no? Sit in the driver's seat. Yeah.
So उनके लिए it's comforting to sit in a squat.
Oh, it's very comforting for us as well, no? जब कभी try कराओ बैठ के ऐसा सुकून मिलता है, चैन.
But after a point, like I don't feel like doing it. Like it still requires mental effort to do it for me, at least. Like sitting in a squat position for a long period of time doesn't feel natural to me, considering my environment. I haven't grown up in that environment where I've done that. Does it feel natural to you?
It's become more natural. So I have an injury in my big toe, which is sort of displaced. Ki jis tarah se how the surface area of the palm of my feet, how it contract uska ground se contact hota hai, thoda twisted ho gaya. So allowing myself to sit in a deep squat helps with that, because my feet have to really, they have to be perfectly planted so that I can sit there for longer. The other thing I've started doing is, and this is also something called masculine breathing. I picked up when I first got red pilled in 2016. जब मैंने पहली बार कहा, oh, ये एक और दूसरी दुनिया भी है, like mainstream से बाहर. So where you basically you kind of take in your balls like that and you breathe. How do I explain this? It's like you basically start connecting with your pelvis muscle and you take it in as you breathe, and then you let your balls drop as you exhale. And so when you do that in a squat, since all of your energy is focused there, you wake up and you just feel different. So I use it to reconnect with the pelvis. I know this sounds woo-woo, but I do think that we are not in as much in touch with our glutes and our pelvis as we are with, say, our neck, our shoulders, our ye sab hai.
Yeah, you're right.
So
when I was using the Mudgar, I realized my butt was loose. Like I didn't, and that reduced the amount, or like I reduced my level of not endurance, but how much I could lift. So if you actually tighten your butt, even while doing shoulder presses or even using Mudgars, it actually helps because it engages the core. Quote unquote.
Yeah, I have an athlete friend, Summer. He's been on this podcast a bunch of times. He trained me for a week.
Acha.
He only does band workouts.
Okay.
He's fit as hell, little body fat, and like got abs. Hasn't been in the gym in years. And मैं सोचता था ऐसा क्यों है? But with every exercise, he squeezes his butt and he squeezes his core. चाहे वो कुछ भी कर रहा है, चाहे वो biceps कर रहा है, at all times he's engaging his butt and his core.
Right.
So I've done that. इतना मुश्किल हो जाता है exercise करना because you're like, oh my god, इसको भी tight रखना है.
Yeah.
But we don't squeeze these muscles as much as we should.
Right.
On account of our sedentary lifestyles, हम बैठे रहते हैं.
Absolutely. Achha, I want to go back to the question of food that you had, eating food which seems unhealthy. So much food which seems unhealthy is because of the ingredients used in it. For example, if you fry a paneer pakoda in refined canola oil, that is much worse than if you fry it in, say, cold pressed groundnut oil. So ingredients matter a lot and fat is demeaned, but fat is
essential.
In Sanskrit mein fat ko ghee ko snake कहते हैं. Snake is love.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
And it makes so much sense because घर वाले अरे इसमें घी डाल लो. तो ghee is love, really,
Ghee is love, yeah.
This should be a clip. Ghee is love.
Ghee is love, yeah.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
Yeah.
Like ghee has one of those rare maternal qualities.
Yeah.
It's maternal love more than paternal love also. If you go one step deeper.
You said it's maternal love.
Yeah.
Yeah. It gives you at least me a sense of warmth with the food.
Yeah. Rajma chawal pe khaya kabhi ghee dal ke. It's delicious.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Interestingly, and again going back to a previous theme that we discussed, ghee was also demonized when there was this nutrition movement ki fats are bad, carbs are okay, but fats are bad. Like low fat diets
आनी शुरू हो गई थी.
And
ये सफोला वगैरह के ads में भी तो ये कहते थे ये लोग.
Absolutely. That was all junk science. Now they've gone back to ghee being a superfood. So I mean, that's why I have an issue with following trends rather than following ancestral wisdom.
Yeah.
So नया trend आ गया साइंस में 10 साल के लिए कि घी नहीं खाना तो लोग घी छोड़ देंगे. That is not cool, I think.
Yeah. Do you use makhan as well?
I use makhan as well. Now, one big purpose that fat fulfills is keeps you satiated. अगर तुम low fat diet खाओ तुम्हें और actually भूख लगेगी. And when people used to follow those low fat diets, people who were in health conditions, they actually used to consume other things more. Like you consume sugar more. So most low fat foods have more sugar, more maida, etc. Yeah,
it's just downright stupid.
Yeah.
So talking about like how fat leaves you satiated for more. Dave Asprey, the founder of Bulletproof Coffee, made his career on that simple notion कि भाई मैं इसमें MCT oil डाल दूंगा fat, avocado oil डाल दूंगा fat, ghee डाल दूंगा fat. I put it in my coffee so I can stay fasted for longer.
Mm-hmm.
It's very good. I've tried it. You really feel full. But there are other good fats as well, right? In India, like do you know any that people can just use?
Yeah. There is
beyond the oils and the ghees.
I mean, cold pressed oils India में जो काफी time से use कर रहे हैं, what we call कच्ची घानी oils, which are not highly processed or refined. You can use them. Like North India में mustard, cold pressed mustard oil use करते हैं. और cold press कोई western term नहीं, India में भी cold press में तरीके से ही बनते थे. South India में केरला के पास coconut oil use होता है बहुत time से, and coconut oil is wonder material, wonder ingredient. सब चीज़ों के लिए use होता है coconut oil. बाल में लगा लो, खाने में डाल लो. It doesn't sound very appetizing, but yeah, it really helps you in so many ways.
Yeah.
Then there's I said mustard, coconut. What else? There's sesame oil, cold pressed sesame oil used in a lot of regions.
हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं sesame को? यहाँ से नहीं.
तिल का तेल.
तिल का तेल. हाँ.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Ghee, makhan to hai.
Ghee, makhan. I'm just trying to think. What was that thing?
There's also a very interesting hypothesis that so traditionally there's a narrative that people who are Brahmins are not they don't consume non-veg.
Yeah.
Now in South India or in Goa, for example, Konkan Brahmins consume fish.
Yeah, मैं कल ही पढ़ रहा था because I'm relocating there soon. I was reading on it on Wikipedia, which is as dubious as you can get, but like how Konkan Brahmins Konkan Hindus rather will follow both parts of their Christian identity as well as like Hindu. बड़े mixed they exist. दोनों को साथ में लेके चलते हैं. Like they'll celebrate all the Christian holidays and stuff, but in some ways they'll practice like a caste system as well. Right. Which is traditionally Hindu. So that's very interesting.
Even in Kerala, and I think Manu Pillai spoke about this in the Naan Curry podcast. That
you had Manu Pillai on?
Yeah. They have there are a lot of traditions which involve both Hindus and Christians in their cities. And if you go to Kochi, in fact, you'll notice in a 1 kilometer radius, you will find say a very large temple or a very large church. And you will find beef being sold. You'll basically it's truly multicultural. And one economic reason that people give is that वो लोग बहुत time से trade कर रहे हैं with many parts of the world, with multicultures.
Coastal cities, है ना?
Coastal cities. So you have to be more tolerant to people.
Yeah, no wonder we're like who we are because we're in landlocked Delhi.
Yeah, and we've been invaded by so many people. So so in a way our ancestors were taught to be aggressive.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Even if it's just our hypothesis from like, you're right, क्योंकि कोई भी आ सकता है अपनी ship लेके, चलो जी, you know.
धंधा करते हैं. And I mean, this economist called Deirdre McCloskey, she talks about how when you introduce free trade or free exchange of goods and services, then she has a book called Bourgeois Virtues. So she says that वो नए virtues आ जाते हैं लोगों में. Without the incentive of exchange, you don't have to be nice to your neighbor. But अगर तुम्हें अपने neighbor को दूध बेचना है और उससे गेहूं खरीदना है, then you have to be nice to them.
Yeah.
So that is valid for Kerala, I think. That's why they embrace multicultural identities more than we do in Delhi.
Which is why I also think people on the internet should collaborate with other people on the internet, because that's also an injunction to be nice. क्योंकि otherwise तो फिर अगर आप खुद ही कर रहे हो, there is no real reason to be nice.
Yeah.
Like this podcast has made me so nice, and I'm not a nice person because I meet so many people. हाँ, आज आओ जी आओ. अच्छी तो बात है, right? Because it is people talk about loneliness so much and other things. If you engage with other human beings and talk to them regularly, and even do business with them, it is what fuels us, whether we like it or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite marketer, Rory Sutherland. I think he talks about this. He says that people are, say, anti-LGBTQ, for example, till they actually have a friend who is a friend, who was anyway a friend with them, a friend to them, but then they discovered that he's probably gay. So you're humanize that idea कि हाँ ये मेरा friend है और ये gay है, ये normal है. Similar thing I think has happened in Liverpool, where they have embraced Mohamed Salah, one of them. So he's
a right winger, no? Right, मतलब he plays on the right wing, not that he's a right winger. Yeah. Sorry.
So I don't know enough about football, but I've read this phenomena that people have become more.
I also only play FIFA, so I know कि
I also only play FIFA.
Good shit. अच्छा लगा मेरे को, because I was like, oh shit, ये अभी बोलने वाला है कि लिवरपूल में क्या हुआ है, but मैंने तो recently खेला था, so I have something to say.
That is the limit of my football.
Bro, FIFA is great. It's such a great game. There's a gaming parlor here that I go to sometimes to play.
Gaming parlor? Wow.
Yeah. That shit is really advancing here. They have क्या 120 रुपए एक घंटे का.
Wow.
So cheap also if you think about it, because you can play FIFA with your friend, go and they serve all the shitty, like जो वो Indian Chinese variant मिलता है हर खाने का.
Right.
You can just go, you can dirty their remotes, उस पे अपना खाने का तेल लगा लो, उस पे अपनी मायोनीज लगा लो, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है, साफ कर देंगे.
Right.
But it's just
True. Often we consume things that already prove our biases.
Yeah.
So when like we meet a real person who's not in line with those biases, actually has potential to change those ideas.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather, not my grandfather, my father, for example, I told him about a couple of gay friends I had. That definitely changed his opinion on gay friends, on gay people rather.
वो तो है. Which is why I think I respect comedians because they can still make jokes about the tragedies that they themselves have faced. You know, by all aspects, if you have a friend who has AIDS, तो मैं लगेगा यार अब मैं AIDS पे jokes नहीं बनाऊंगा. नहीं अब मैं और jokes बनाऊंगा. Because that's also like over talking it to death is also a way to therapize.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that about
Manu Joseph's की एक hypothesis है ना that
over articulation,
and also कि if wait, I need to think about it. क्या बोल रहा था मैं?
like we were talking about वो tragedy वाली बात. No, you need to know where your wound is. That is another thing he said.
You need to know where your wound is. Yeah.
I know it because you reshared that some part of it on your Twitter.
Right. Yeah, definitely. There are actually a bunch of Manu Joseph ideas that go on in my head.
Some people call him Joseph. Why is he hated so much? You know, because I had no idea about Manu Joseph. ठीक है? I knew कि serious man एक बंदे ने लिखी Manu Joseph. We've had the book at our house for years.
Yeah.
And then suddenly all the pieces started collecting because I started connecting because I started seeing these Instagram pe articles and stuff, the posts that he shares. And I've given him a better tool since. I don't know if you'll use it or not. But then I was like, who is this person जो इतने बढ़िया writing कर रहा है हर हफ्ते ये हो क्या रहा है हिंदुस्तान में? Why is it not some activist fodder? Why is it like genuine, funny, observational stuff that doesn't have any real consequences for, say, Hinduism या फिर farmer rights, but just minor everyday observation? ये कौन है इंसान? And then I just went into a deep rabbit hole. But like how did you, like, and why is he so hated and how did you know about him?
I started reading him I started reading his Mint columns. I used to write for Mint and I used to like their writing जो उनके op-ed pages पे थी. Started with economics but then went into a lot of other things because they were the best in economics, or they are the best in economics, and that was something I was studying. So that's how I got into it. He is hated because he is an original thinker. He doesn't like, जैसे मैंने बोला था ना, that universities में there's a problem that you have to please people around you. You have to please, like, if you're an assistant professor, you have to please the professor if you go ahead in your career. He is genuinely an independent thinker. He sells enough copies of Mint newspaper, so they haven't chucked him out. And he's had a very interesting life. He was earlier poor, as he mentioned, but he doesn't like sound like that. Like, he doesn't practice activism the way somebody who has come out of poverty does. In fact, talks about the merit of capitalism. Yeah, which is rare in which is rare for somebody who's a writer. Usually writers are
poverty glorifiers.
Yeah. देखो ये खेत, ये गरीब लोग कितने सुंदर दिख रहे हैं. सब लोग ऐसे होते तो कितना अच्छा होता.
वही तो.
So I now I remember what I was talking about earlier when I mentioned Manu Joseph. So he says that if you're a shitty person in your private life, like if you're shitty to your parents, if you're shitty to your friends, then you want to virtue signal more on Instagram, Twitter, on social media around. Like, you want to act more woke because you are in a way compensating for that in your real life. And virtue signaling is not bad, but it is empty virtue signaling because you're shitty to your parents. And then you are like, practice kindness, practice love, be kind to everyone, be kind to that XYZ person in Africa. But stop it, mom.
Stop it, mom. I had this whole phase where I renamed my mummy baba contact to mom and dad. Then I was like, ये सब बकवास है.
Mom, mummy.
So this whole notion of saying mom, dad is just so weird. American पिक्चरों में सुना हमने, हम इसको करते रहते हैं, मेरे को समझ नहीं आता. क्या दिक्कत है मम्मी को मम्मी बोलने में, पापा को पापा बोलने में, बहन को sis is so fun. It's just weird. ये भी ना, I genuinely think most people will stop doing all of this shit once they find real purpose in their life. नहीं तो ऐसी, like there's this other term that is, do you know what the female version of a dude is?
Dudette?
Dudette.
Dudette, yeah, for that. Yeah.
बहुत अजीब, it's just very, very weird how we interact with our colonial past and how we integrate things we learn from other countries. We do it in a very weird fashion in India. हम लोग बहुत अलग तरीके से करते हैं.
Yeah.
In a way that can seem downright unnatural. And then some parts of our are so primitive. जैसे one of the good things about Decoupled, for example, is कि वैसे वो बात करते हैं इक्वालिटी की और वैसे अपने खुद के नौकरों से बदतमीजी करते हैं, बदसलूकी करते हैं.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I think with Manu's strength, if you say that I did not know he was poor, I had no idea, because when I met him, he was a thorough gentleman. I thought like he's always lived in the high classes of Gurgaon.
Which is what everybody mistakes him for. But he talks about it in his essays that he has come from a poor background where it was hard to meet ends.
When you say poor, you mean like poor?
I mean, like he mentions that there was a struggle to put food on the table, and he comes from humble, a humble
He's from
background.
Kerala, right?
He's from Kerala, yeah. And he's talked about his living experiences in chawls. There's a lovely essay he's written for, I think, some architecture magazine where he talks about coming to Mumbai and
You reshared that on Twitter. I saw that. Yeah.
And imagining that you come from a small city to Mumbai, that Mumbai will be this glamorous place, but then all you're doing is you're stuck in a chawl.
Yeah.
So it's a different kind of poverty there than in say a small village where you have a large piece of land but no opportunities. But in Mumbai you have opportunities but tiny piece of land.
I think you will really enjoy reading Kamala Markandeya.
Kamala Markandeya.
Yeah, she's one of India's first novelists who wrote in the English language. One of the first female. Her, Mulk Raj Anand and a couple of others, ये पहले थे पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस इंडिया के अंदर जिन्होंने इंग्लिश में लिखा था. पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस, हाँ, one of the first writers. So the whole premise of the book also takes place कि there's this land, it's from a woman's perspective. उसका husband उसे शादी करके ले आया, he's a good man, हट वट बनाते हैं, बच्चे रखते हैं, बेंचो बारिश नहीं आती. So it's a village in South India. So the entire struggle is कि कैसे कभी वो सिर्फ चावल के पानी पे, कभी वो सिर्फ पत्ते खा रहे हैं टू सर्वाइव. लाइक जस्ट हमें लगता है कि पावर्टी ऐसी, वी सी पावर्टी एज अ स्टैटिस्टिक ऑन आज तक और समवेयर एल्स, इट्स जस्ट फार रिमूव फ्रॉम अस अनलेस वी एक्चुअली एक्सपीरियंस्ड इट. बट रीडिंग अबाउट एब्सोल्यूट लाइक पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस पावर्टी जो 47 में पावर्टी हो रही थी, दैट जस्ट ओपन्स योर आइज टू थिंग्स एंड इट्स सच अ ग्रेट थिंग. एंड वहाँ पे भी ये बताती इवेंचुअली सम ऑफ देम मूव टू द सिटी एंड व्हाट हैपन्स टू हर pastoral sons as they move to the city, they become hardened. They work in a tannery जहाँ पे leather वगैरह काटते हैं.
Right.
And they all migrate away from this land. So it's a I don't know how like lands are still so, some Indians feel so comforted कि हमारे पास बड़ा खेत है, हम भूखे मर रहे हैं. It's a very weird thing. Yeah. You and I don't have it as much.
Yeah.
But say I meet some of my other older relatives, they still view land as that they have something. That they are something, that there is merit to their life.
Right. It's a tangible, yeah. You can't see a stock.
Yeah.
You can see equity stock you can't see, but you can see a land. You can sit on it. Record podcasts on it.
वही तो मुझे ऐसा भी लगता है कि the stats I've read in the US, I don't know India में कैसा है कि we've become very averse to buying real estate. We're renters now more than anything.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how this will change in the future. Will we buy no real estate at all? Will we perpetually be Airbnb-ing and short-term apartments and all that jazz? Because land does bind you. That is one of the things about land.
Right. True.
Now you have to live there, maintain it, whatever. फिर आपको उस शहर का कहना पड़ेगा. उसकी रखवाली करनी पड़ेगी, 4 दीवारें लगवानी पड़ेगी उसके आसपास. Yeah, just a prestige thing. Yeah.
I think one thing that makes Manu Joseph unique, and he talks about it, is that he's lived through poverty, so he can comment on it. But most people, just say that professor character in Decoupled, he hasn't lived through it, but he tries to have this level of sympathy towards it, which is sometimes honest. But even if you're honest about it, you have not been through that lived experience, so you can't झाड़ो ज्ञान on it all the time.
अच्छी तो बात है जो, क्योंकि दूसरे इंसान को पता लग जाता है आपका लाइफ एक्सपीरियंस क्या है. matlab, especially like in a long form format, you can really see who that person is because you can't hide behind a 2-minute garb, ya 3 minutes ka, ya 7 minutes ka, ya 8 minutes ka.
Right.
When I was interviewing him, he's very consistent with things. And the first thing he said is कि इसको edit कर देना. I don't like over articulating things. मैंने कुछ respond नहीं करा. मैं नहीं करूँगा edit. But I'm glad that we were able to put that out because he's just a brilliant guy to talk to. Just so smart. And we were talking कि एक तो ये होता ना, you have those very reclusive writers who write one good novel and disappear forever and then don't come out. Their life is in shambles. I always respect the everyday geniuses जो हर हफ्ते कुछ नया निकालते रहते हैं. Just more accessible, no? Like this is someone I can become.
Right.
I don't have to make my personal life go to hell to make art.
Right. Somebody had asked him on Twitter that how does one, if you have a regular job, become a better writer? Like generally, how do you become a better writer? And you'll be able to comment on this more.
Yeah.
So he said exercise. For example, lift weights.
Yes.
B, have less friends. Which I found very interesting. What do you think about this?
In a way, मतलब मेरे को 2 great लोगों के कोट्स आ रहे हैं मन में और मैं उन दोनों को लड़ाई करा रहा हूँ आपस में to make sure who wins.
Yeah.
So Dostoevsky says, when you write, you embody the spirit of your friends. That's what he says, you know. Because let's say अगर हम लोग हर रोज hang out करना शुरू कर देते हैं, I'm influenced by you as much as you're influenced by me. So then, since I'm a youth, and I can only speak about youth, the adventurous spirit is usually a culmination of everyone you hang out with there. The adventurousness of your writing, let's just say. I think that's what Dostoevsky meant. Now, Hemingway shits on, matlab, he does such brutal portraits of Scott Fitzgerald and his wife and everyone he meets in this book called A Movable Feast, which was recommended to me by Anuj Gosalia of Terribly Tiny Tales. पढ़ी भी हुई है मेरे पास में. And I was like, यार इसने ये कैसे लिख दिया? You know, it helps that Scott Fitzgerald is also a writer, but अपने दोस्तों की ले भी रहा है, but he's giving like a full portrait. So it's difficult. I do see why he says that, because you need a certain kind of isolationary vantage point to write from a place of honesty.
Absolutely.
If you're always like in the bazaar, मतलब ये idea bazaar बोल लो, कुछ भी बोल लो, तो you can't really carve out enough time to think what do you think about those things. Your opinions are then just इस भाई ने ये quote बोला था, इस भाई ने वो quote बोला था, which is what we all fall prey to.
Right.
Like we have very less opinions and more quotes.
True.
Yeah. What do you think?
I have done both those things. Tried to proactively choose the friends I have.
Yeah.
And also exercise. Both those things have helped me think and write better.
But I also think hanging out with the crazies gives you great ideas.
Absolutely, it does.
Like things outside your comfort zone. So for example, if I spend all my day in the studio, which I don't anymore, thankfully, and I go meet with people who are not in my just natural purview में नहीं आते. आप सोचते नहीं हो कि मैं आज यहाँ चला जाऊँगा, वहाँ कर लूँगा. Like yesterday, before going climbing, my friend, he has this startup where he's making these beer mug holders that are made of fabric essentially.
Right.
So he said, I have to take a detour, मेरे को fabric वाले से मिल के आना. And normally I frown over those things क्योंकि हम late हो रहे थे, but I was like, fuck it, let's go. Then we sat down in the fabric guy's office, and the guy was 22, but he was so knowledgeable about fabrics that मजे आ गए उससे बात करके. And like that's something I would normally not experience.
Right.
Had I, just been like, नहीं मैं 3-4 लोगों से hang out करूँगा. So you have to also be cautious about echo chambers.
That's true. I think the nuance here is that you don't have to, like, if you're able to not please all of your friends, if you have that security in yourself, कि हाँ मैं ऐसी बातें कर सकता हूँ which will upset few of my friends, then it's fine.
That's where the courage comes in. So I'm hoping to go to that place soon where ऐसा भी होता है, but some things that, like, all the funniest things, all the most tragic things just happen right next to you. But since it's so close to you, can't do that. Or I wonder, like, do people make peace with कि यार ये तो हमें dead name करेगा, ये तो हमें dox करेगा, ये अपने जो भी ये portal use करता है, writing करता है, कुछ करता है. I don't know. But I'm sure, like, with all the haters that he has, people like us generally admire what he does.
Yeah.
Because he says that my first, this is what he said. He said, my first allegiance is to the truth, which is his journalistic training.
Right.
Which I think is nice.
Yeah.
Because I think any kind of SE training, journalistic training, a writer's training has you like immersed in one kind of art form as opposed to just like उठ गए content creator बन गए. So you're just sort of like internalizing rules from the internet that are haywire, that are all over the place.
Right.
You know.
So you're saying there's an advantage in being a pre-internet writer?
I think so.
Yeah.
Because it has discipline and it has very little dopamine in it.
Yeah. Which is that Twitter picture of Manu Joseph where there is this person with a choti and the choti is tied to something and they have to, they're constantly writing because they're tied to their desk.
हाँ तो यार जैसे like think about it. On one hand, I can't help but be thankful to the internet for giving me my writing audience, for sharing my ideas. On the other hand, since the output is so immediate, you can do it from your phone. You start priming your writing. You start writing it so that it is for that audience. So that you automatically start self-censoring. And I think when you're quietly pursuing it on your own, you really don't have that much of that happening.
Right.
So that's one of the benefits that these guys have. Like for example, Jeet Thayil can write a book on narcotic drugs and his experience in opium dens and smoking garad, which is like bad, like really cheap heroin in 70s in Mumbai's brothel district in Kamatipura, because he really doesn't care ki internet pe baat chalegi nahi chalegi, because he's like not self-censoring.
Right.
So I think self-censorship on the internet is the big problem.
Got it. In a way, so the internet makes you fragile because the audience that makes you popular can also take you down.
हाँ, so you're at the mercy. But उसका भी, I think the goal is to eventually diversify so much that you're never at the mercy of any one audience, because that is very important.
Yeah.
If your paymasters are 1,000 people, you're fucked. You should have one paymaster, and you should never disclose who that is. I think that's the way to do it. I want to talk to you, take a slight tangent, and talk further about, like for example, I'm visiting Goa. Have you had Goan cuisine at all?
I absolutely love Goan cuisine.
Yeah, so they have a very different way of making food than say how we make meat curries here in the north. है ना? I'm just wondering, if I'm going to Goa or the entire Konkani belt for that matter, what are things that I should try and what are things I should just straight up ignore?
I would suggest do your own experimentation. One thing to be aware of is that there is like a Portuguese Christian cuisine influence that has a lot of pork. Then there is
I love pork. Yeah.
Absolutely. I also love it. I recommend trying vindaloo, chorizo sausage. I think chorizo sausage is one of the, at least for me, one of the tastiest sausages.
Chorizo क्या होता है जिसमें वो pork को छोटा काट देते हैं?
It's a way to preserve pork. So वो pork को they spice it in their own way. Originally ये Spain से है, but वो India, Spain या Portugal से है. But वो जब वो India आया तो obviously हमने Indian spices डाल दिए उसमें. तो वो it's like a spicy mix of pork, and then it is put between a casing. Often it is pig skin, like any other sausage, and then it is a way to preserve that pork.
Yeah.
And वो preservation में वो उसका taste और enhance हो जाता है. And it is served with a pav. It is served with like everything in Maharashtra and Goa served with a pav. Served with poi bread, which is a local Goan bread.
Poi bread.
Poi bread. So look out for that.
Yeah.
And then there is sort of the Hindu cuisine, which is very seafood based.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'll have fried fish. You'll have fish curries.
Bro,
different kinds of fish.
They serve golden calamari like it's French fries.
Right. Yeah.
इतनी खाई है मैंने गोवा जाके, मैं क्या हो क्या रहा है?
Yeah.
Like eating golden calamari for breakfast, lunch, dinner. Yeah. Sorry.
If one is North Indian, I highly recommend not going to North Goa, because you will if you want to optimize for a good eating experience in Goa, because you will have a lot more locals in South Goa, in my opinion.
That's true.
Yeah. North Goa is often for tourists, and the thing with a lot of tourist friendly places is they know that log आएंगे ही वहाँ पे, so they can deliver an average or above average experience. People will post it on Instagram because they're popular, and they can get away with it. Truly, if you have to find good food in any place, go and eat where the locals eat.
You will love. I'm sure you must have really loved Anthony Bourdain.
I absolutely loved Anthony Bourdain. I actually had tears when he died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great guy.
What a guy. Yeah. He truly embraced, just as you mentioned earlier, meeting the masses. He didn't like wine and like, he's a celebrity, so he could have easily gone into any city and met the elitist of the elite, and there is sort of this ego boost attached ना कि हाँ मैं दिल्ली जा रहा हूँ और मैं ये मिनिस्टर आके मेरे से मिल रहा है, या ये टॉप या बॉम्बे जा रहा हूँ, तो
हुआ तो था उसका, इंडिया आया था जब वो
हुआ था.
He met the some state in India, I think one of the cities in Rajasthan had
he met one of the kings, I think.
One of the kings.
Yeah.
So weird to see the king. वो बैठा हुआ है, वो दोनों खड़े होकर बात कर रहे हैं because he has to be king. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You don't.
The king cooked mutton for him, if I remember.
शायद.
Yeah. But I mean, थोड़ा बहुत तो I'm guessing करना होता होगा, because you have to, if you want to shoot in say Rajasthan, maybe to get permission in India, considering how much red tape it is.
Yeah.
Is there in India? उन्होंने कहा होगा कि हाँ हमसे आके मिल, then he'll have to do that.
Have you seen the episode where he goes to Syria and has KFC, but it's not KFC, it's local?
I think I've seen that.
Yeah.
Is this in parts unknown?
This is in parts unknown.
Yeah. What a great series. What a great concept of a series.
Yeah. What is the concept? This is the one show I watched. फिर और भी बहुत सारे थे. I got a bit confused.
Parts unknown is about, as the name suggests, very simply, about places which don't typically you see on Lonely Planet, Condé Nast Traveler, which are like glorified. As Maldives is overly glorified. You don't see those places on these travel magazines. But ऐसा नहीं है वहाँ पे interesting stories नहीं है. ऐसा नहीं वहाँ पे interesting कहानियाँ नहीं है. So he goes there and talks to those people, wines and dines with the masses, and gives us insight which we wouldn't normally have sitting in our homes.
And he has a brown man's stomach. For some of the shit that he eats, for sure. Most people are like, oh fuck, I can't handle it. India jaake diarrhea ho gaya. He's got an iron gut.
Right.
He used to eat a lot of great stuff. I remember kaun sa ek wo tha, he had a quad biking accident. He was trying to go from one part of Mexico to another using a quad bike, and had an accident. अच्छा भी लगता था देख के that he's a personality. Like वो beer भी पीता था, chill भी करता था. Yeah. And he made his career like in the kitchens of New York, where he also got his heroin habit, by the way. Yeah, lots of great guys. Just
he falls under the bucket of people who I really admire but don't want to be like.
And Jim Morrison. Yeah.
Because the cost of all he did in his head, which didn't show till it actually showed.
It's pata nahi, just something about heroin. It's just like when you've tasted that. I'm not even sure like childbirth can make you happy. I could be wrong. I'm just my stupid hypothesis, having never tried heroin. But just I saw the same in Chris Cornell, who's the lead singer of Soundgarden. Who was the lead singer of Soundgarden? He did the same, and it's just weird. Like you think something like showing the world how to eat and where to eat would make you happy. But that's just not the case.
Right.
There's something so inalienably bad that you feel about yourself that you have to kill yourself. So, yeah.
Yeah, he is a posthumous, like he's my number one posthumous Naan Curry guest if he was alive, of course.
You can split together parts of his speech and pretend to interview him. People do that a lot.
Which is what has been done with one of his documentaries, I think.
Acha.
Yeah,
it's for me at least. मुझे याद है one funny incident talking about food is our family went to Australia in 2014, and my sister and I said हम तो multi cuisine खाएंगे, right? Like we were like at that edge, like we're about to become globe trotters और हम बड़े हो रहे हैं, हमारे अपने tastes हैं. तो my dad just smirked, कहते ठीक है खाओ, एक दो बार try करा, then the fourth day we're like please किसी Indian restaurant ले चलो, हमारे बस की नहीं है. A lot of the problems I think when people start to try new food is one, there isn't a proper ceremony associated जहाँ पे आपको ease in करते हैं कि अब आप ये खाने वाले हो. Second, people don't know where to look. And third, there's just like a discomfort in finding out that you've really loved meat all your life, but you just can't eat it because of XYZ social customs. You know, I'm sure like you are probably ऐसा कोई इंसान, you play that role in many people's life कि यार तेरा तो podcast भी है खाने का, चल बता क्या बढ़िया खाना है type से. Like how do you help these skeptics to try something new for the first time? Or like how do you even like go about developing your own palate? कुछ तो इसके अंदर मेहनत लगती है अपनी, मुझे पता है. कुछ तो discomfort zone, मतलब comfort zone से बाहर जाना ही होता है. But उसके beyond, like any helpful tips that people could use?
I have none. It's just a broader concept of embracing randomness and embracing the uncertain. If you're able to do that, then you can do it with food. The thing with food is that evolutionarily, if you go to a new place, traditionally somebody could poison you because you're say you have a tribe and your tribe goes to an unknown place. You would be very skeptical of trying food there because you would be competing with the tribe there and you could be easily poisoned. So there is a rational blockage in your head to not try new food or to not vary the kind of food you eat. So it's very difficult to get over that rational blockage. Rational as in it was rational at a certain time. To an extent even now, because your gut is not suited to every kind of food. So if you go to a different, as you mentioned, Anthony had a brown man's gut. But if you go to a certain region where your body doesn't know something and it's not able to digest something, then it will screw you up in certain ways. So yeah, it's a very hard problem, and I don't know what the solution is.
Have you ever tasted oysters?
I have tasted oysters.
It's so great.
I've enjoyed it.
I watched the Mr. Bean episode where he has देखा है Mr. Bean where he orders oysters at a French restaurant and makes a fool of himself.
Yeah, that big ice plate with oysters and a bunch of other
फिर उसका
seafood.
पेट खराब हो जाता है eventually when he eats them.
Right.
So I had a bad experience, and then at university, in one of these days, my last year in college, they decided कि आज हम dining hall में oysters serve करेंगे. ठीक है भाई, आप कर रहे हो oysters serve. I ended up enjoying them so much. I ended up eating like 7 or 8.
Wow.
And nothing bad happened. Just such a great seafood. And they're alive, right? When you're eating them, from what I heard, like
Not always.
Not always. Okay. Yeah.
But one way is to not eat at large restaurants. Try to eat where the locals eat. अब उसका downside ये भी है because that will be less manicured for tourists, so it'll be
not Instagram friendly.
And also वहाँ पे जो डाइवर्सिटी ऑफ इंग्रेडिएंट्स होंगे वो भी ज़्यादा होंगे काफ़ी. जैसे अब इफ़ समबडी कम्स टू इंडिया एंड दे गो टू बुखारा फॉर एग्जांपल, वहाँ पे पूछेंगे सर आर यू ग्लूटेन इंटॉलरेंट, सर आर यू डेयरी इंटॉलरेंट, एंड विल केटर टू ऑल योर नीड्स. तुम अगर कोई राजेंद्र ढाबा पे जाओ वहाँ पे तो कोई नहीं पूछेगा ना.
हाँ, वहाँ पे सीधे मार ही देंगे सिलेक्ट डिजीज से.
वहाँ पे लाओ खाओ रुमाली रोटी.
हाँ.
नहीं खानी नहीं खाओ.
Have you ever tried Dishum?
No, I haven't. This is in London?
हाँ, this is in London. मेरे को लगा था कि मुंबई, it's a Mumbai-based brand, but for some reason, they serve great Mumbai-based food, but only in the UK. Very weird.
I haven't been, but I've heard from people in the UK that's good.
मैंने पहली बार निहारी खाई थी, मेरी फट गई थी. I hadn't tasted something so tasty.
Right.
They covered the entire bowl with रोटी that is edible. ये भी तो एक चीज़ करते हैं, बिरयानी को रोटी से ही कवर कर देते हैं ऊपर से
दम के लिए, ताकि अंदर उसकी स्टीम फंस जाए.
दम. अच्छा, that's where the word dum biryani comes from.
Yeah. तो अंदर the steam cooks the biryani inside. It traps the heat.
Okay.
Yeah.
तो जो ये चीज़, so मुझे याद है कभी घर में बचपन में एक दौर चला था जब हमारे घर पे हर चीज़ पे वो धुआं लगाते थे. What the fuck is that?
चारकोल से.
पता नहीं किस चीज़ से, but the food would taste weird.
धुआं लगा देते मीनिंग.
इस पे धुआं लगा, like smoked राजमा चावल, is that a thing?
हाँ, मतलब that's one way of making dal makhani and butter chicken at home. So traditionally butter chicken has tandoori chicken, which is tandoor में बना होता. Tandoor is smoky naturally.
Right.
But घर पे तंदूर नहीं होता. So what you can do after, you can just cook regular chicken, like fry it in a pan, semi-fry it. साथ में gravy बनाओ. The dish is done. Mix the gravy and the chicken, and then in a bowl add some coal. Put ghee on that. Burn the coal obviously before that. Put ghee on that, and then put it in the butter chicken वाला जो जिसमें बनाओगे पैन में, और उसको ढक दो. तो the smoke from the coal will make the butter chicken smoky. तो वो smokiness उससे आएगी.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It's just a taste thing. There's no like real merit to smoking something, right?
As in health wise?
Yeah.
No, it's a taste thing.
Just a taste
Have you
thing.
seen Love Shav the Chicken Khurana?
Oh, क्या picture है वो?
Yeah.
It's a great soundtrack also. Yeah.
Yeah. उसमें भी I think the secret at the end.
Spoiler. Churn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of making that chicken khurana was some kind of smoke.
मेरे को ये भी पता है, there is this fetish that certain Indians who go abroad have, where वो specially जाके so that they remember Indian street food, they'll go and buy the special masala जो होता है ना omelette का, from an omelette वाला on the street, and then they use it in everything. Yeah.
Omelette masala.
You know, you can never make the same omelette at home that a street vendor can make for you.
You can try, yeah.
But you will never get the same taste. Have you tried?
Yeah, I make omelette curry all the time.
Omelette curry?
Yeah.
वो कैसे बनती है?
आपके घर में जैसे आलू की करी बनती है, like जो
रेसे के अंदर ऑमलेट डाल दिया, लाइव ऑमलेट.
ऑमलेट को तुम काट दो, पीस कर दो,
हाँ,
एंड जस्ट पुट इट इन इट.
सो मतलब वो क्या फिर ऑमलेट को रोटी बना के खाते हैं ऐसे रेसे के अंदर से?
यस, जैसे पनीर खाते हैं, आलू खाते हैं, ऐसे यू कैन ईट ऑमलेट. ऐसे बॉइल्ड एग करी तो होती है ना, बॉइल्ड एग की जगह जस्ट मेक एन ऑमलेट सेपरेटली, प्लेन ऑमलेट, चॉप इट इनटू पीसेस एंड पुट द पीसेस इन दैट.
क्रेजी.
या, सो यू कैन डू इट विद any curry base, like you can make it.
That's a good way to add protein to your curry.
Exactly. तो तुम अगर तुम मालाबार में हो, केरला में हो, तो you can make a Malabar curry and add omelette to it. You're in Punjab, you can add it to saag also. You add it to anything.
I hate saag.
You hate saag?
Bro, कुछ होता ही नहीं है उसके अंदर. मतलब वेट करते रहो कि अब कुछ तो स्वाद आएगा.
मतलब मक्खन, my friend.
हाँ, I know. वो तो फिर रोटी पे और उसमें लगाना पड़ता है ना. But like anything that I have to use, it's like saying, okay, I have a bad joke, but I will not make it. But like, you know, like it's like saying, okay, यार मेरे को I have to use these external circumstances, external things to make this palatable to me. Like,
right. Yeah.
अंदर से अच्छा होना चाहिए वो.
Which is what I feel about achar often. Some people say that achar तभी खाते हैं लोग अगर actual खाना अच्छा ना हो.
Yeah. Are you a big pickles guy?
Not a medium pickles guy, I would say.
Yeah. Some of the achars are great.
Yeah.
Just to eat on their own.
Yeah. The thing to be careful about buying achar again is the bad quality of oil. So only buy achars which say cold pressed oil.
Yeah, my mother makes उनके अपने मृतबान होते हैं. She great. Whenever I do it, I'm not a big achar guy. Also want to talk to you randomly about shakkar.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah. Do you use shakkar? Because it's one of the few Indian sugars जिसके बारे में मतलब मैं दीवाना हो जाता हूँ. स्पेशली उसमें अगर हमारे घर में बहुत साल तक another alternative that was introduced to just अगर तुम्हें सब्जी से नहीं खाना है, आप बूरा या शक्कर ले लो, उसमें घी डाल लो और उसमें रोटी चिपड़ के खा लो. वो इतना मज़ा आता है वो करने में.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's definitely better than having chini, which is white sugar. It is processed a lot more white sugar. I think it's washed with, I think sulfur. Sulfur is डलती है वो.
For real?
I think that's the correct chemical, but I have to check. But it has preservatives, and उसमें से ना jaggery, which is just solid shakkar.
Yeah.
That has a lot of other things apart from just the chini. वो चीनी जो है वो बिल्कुल refine होके just वही part रह जाता है जो sweetness add करता है. But if you have jaggery, you'll know there's nuance to that taste. Like वो सिर्फ मीठा नहीं होता. It has more flavor.
Right.
Interestingly, India में in the after independence, in the 1950s, jaggery production was discouraged and banned by the government because they wanted to promote sugar production, because a lot of sugar mills were owned by people that the government wanted to please, and that pushed more sugar production. When I say sugar, I mean chini, and reduced jaggery production, and which was unfortunate, which had like drastic effects on our health. Even now, sugar is controlled by politicians. Like the sugar industry is controlled by politicians. So there's very less incentive of the government to push it away.
That's crazy.
Discourage it.
क्योंकि Jaggery वाला तो is something that anyone who's associated with, who's tied to their like rural roots can benefit from. हमारे फैमिली में ऐसा है. तो अब गुड़ भी दो तरह के आते हैं. एक होता है किराने की दुकान वाला गुड़ जो कि नॉर्मल होता है. यू कैन टेस्ट दैट इट जस्ट टेस्ट वेरी कमर्शियल फॉर द लैक ऑफ अ बेटर वर्ड. एक होता है गुड़ जो गांव से आता है एंड उसके जो वो पत्थर भी होते हैं गुड़ के, वो बड़े से देर अनडिफरेंशिएटेड, बहुत बड़े बड़े होते हैं, उनको तोड़ना मुश्किल होता है. जो मार्केट से आता है वो देर ऑल राउंडेड. सो आई कैन नो कि हाँ इस पर थोड़ा सिस्टम किया गया है, लाइक उस पर कुछ लगाया गया है, ऑल ऑफ दैट. But the good from the village is just you have a little bite, it feels like you've had sugar for the entire day. You don't need any more.
Right.
Very weird.
It's like I've heard that the browner it is, the darker it is, the better it is. Usually that's a heuristic people follow.
हाँ ऐसा ही है, कुछ ऐसा ही है. Because market में बहुत light आता है. Yeah. But one thing that I think Mahadevi is cracked is the gajak. If you had gajak, I used to hate gajak as a kid, but I've warmed up to it. It's got enough meetha plus wo peanuts wala ratio that it's tasty.
Traditional protein bar.
Is it?
I mean, जितना protein तुम peanuts से ले सकते हो. Traditional protein bar छोड़ो, screw that. Energy bar, traditional energy bar.
Yeah.
The problem is, and I used to love chikki or gachak, whatever you might call it. Problem is now, it traditionally was just made with 2-3 ingredient. एक हो गया ये आपका peanuts, दूसरा हो गया jaggery, और तुम flavor के लिए इलायची डाल दो कभी. Now they bloody add sugar to it separately, chini, white sugar. Most places, if you read the ingredients, most places add it because again price सस्ता है.
Just like Dabur honey, no added honey, and yet किचन में रखा हुआ है, अभी ऊपर देखना शुरू हो जाता है.
Again the problem is scale. If I've found a person who just makes gur or peanuts ki jaggery. There's a huge difference. And also some people add oils to it also, the wrong kind of oils. So scale screws everything when it comes to food.
But the other alternative is, so the average person cannot enjoy these. I went to Delhi Heart and there was this guy, old man, Indian beekeepers, uski company ka naam hai. He was making all these different kinds of honeys, beautiful bottles. There was saffron infused honey which I bought, 800 रुपए का. Still haven't used the entire thing. मुझे लगता है कि एक तो saffron इतना महंगा होता है, right? But it's just so delectable to eat. हल्का सा भी उसकी छोटी चम्मच होती है ना जो किचन में, that teaspoon you have it, or like oh क्या शहद है.
Yeah, true. You can actually taste the difference between commercial shahad and locally produced shahad.
But sometimes you just have to make do, which is why like I also like this new wave of artisanal coffee that is going around in urban cities.
Absolutely.
क्योंकि अभी क्या है, किराने की दुकान पे तो सिर्फ Nescafe मिलती है. The best you can get Nescafe Gold. 24/7 will have like okay, Davidoff, which makes no sense how Davidoff has cigarettes, perfumes, and coffee.
Yeah.
But I like this whole new wave that has, been around with Blue Tokai, Sleepy Owl, Beanly, Araku. Ye sab, they're at least allowing us to have one common caffeine item that has some quality in it.
Right. I really like the fact that you brought that up because what they're doing, these coffee companies, artisanal coffee companies, they've made an Indian product sexy in India.
Yes.
Like, I would definitely buy an Indian coffee over a Colombian coffee or
any day now.
Yeah.
खत्म हो गया ना वो Ethiopian coffee आ रही है, Colombian बिल्कुल खत्म हो गया है.
बिल्कुल. Indian coffee is sexy and that actually opens up the path for a lot of other entrepreneurs to make other Indian things sexy. Some people are doing it with laddus. Some people are calling it like protein balls or energy balls. And which they were originally. They were not like dessert. A lot of sweets that we eat now, they had a purpose. They were packaged in certain ways to give you man ki enjoyment and also other bodily benefit. Like pregnant women were given a certain kind of laddu. People traveling were given a certain kind of laddu. Now we're like, खाना खत्म किया तो कुछ मीठा खा लेते हैं.
Yeah, before I get to that whole ये Indian वाली की चीज़ें, I just remembered because you mentioned कि वो रास्ते में जाने वाले बंदे को कुछ और दिया है और प्रेग्नेंट औरत को कुछ और. There's this word I learned in this in one of these like old British books. There's this thing called the stirrup cup.
Stirrup cup.
Haan. And I was like, ye kya word hai? Then I looked it up. Apparently, in medieval England or like when people used horses, आप जैसे कहीं से दारू वारू पी के आ रहे हो, कोई सी होस्ट ने बुलाया है, फिर आपको एक और कप मिलता है जाने से पहले, जो आपको जब आप अपने पैरों को अपने हॉर्स के स्टरप्स होते हैं ना, जो वो the thing you place your feet in. When you sit on the horse, you place your feet in something, right? Those are stirrups. So you're given a cup that you're supposed to drink while standing stationary on your horse. It's not even like one for the way, because you like they don't endorse drinking and horse riding, but like एक आप दारू बैठ के पी के जाओ. So I just remembered that little tangent because you mentioned but it's so weird like how we do things like that. Ki have one for the road. That's a thing that we often do. It's a subtle way of saying ki remember me on the road as well.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm always happy when someone like leaves alcohol in my company. मैं अरे वाह यार अब ये मैं भी पाऊंगा. वो बोलते भाई तू रख ले, enjoy कर. Thanks यार.
Yeah.
So yeah, talking about the Indian thing though, you're right for sure. ऐसा है. I think the solution to mixing Ayurveda with our upwardly mobile thinking है, जो हम progressive जिस तरह हम जा रहे हैं, is to repackage ancient Indian stuff as cool. कुछ हद तक some people have been very successful. Like there's a Barfi brand called Khoya.
Khoya, yeah.
The reason it works is because like, oh my God, it's stereotypical Hindi name that is alien to us, now repackaged to us in beautiful colors. We're like, हाँ, of course, मिठाइयाँ तो होती हैं बहुत बढ़िया.
Right. I think, so there is a parallel here to be drawn with Tesla, for example. I think healthy things need to be sexy and expensive to start off with. The way Tesla started off with a electric sports car rather than a boring electric car which other companies started off with.
And they look horrible. EVs look horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tesla started off with making electric cars sexy. So they basically, the expensive roadster that Tesla introduced, that in a way gave venture capital for them to invest in other cheaper cars eventually.
Right.
A did that. B, it made cars sexy. It made like electric cars sexy. More people wanted to buy it. There is another way, which is the like activist way कि तुम convince करो लोगों को कि नहीं आप electric car खरीदो because it will save the environment. Yeah. Or when it comes to food, you convince people, no, this is better for the environment, this is better for your body. Or you could just sell it in an expensive packaging, make it sexy, make it cool.
Yeah.
And then it'll trickle down to different parts of the society, different economic classes. Then lower economic classes will also say कि हाँ यार ये तो अमीर लोग भी खाते हैं, so you should also eat it.
That's a smart way of doing it. Like you can't nag people कि तुम ये करो. It has to be something they want to aspire to.
Yeah.
Make it a status game and see how many people are like.
Yeah.
Make health a status game.
Yeah.
You know, comparative yoga, for example.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. Because I remember no one bought Reva, जो वो गाड़ी आती थी.
Exactly.
Electric car. Such a shitty car, bro.
Yeah.
Just looks so shitty.
Yeah.
Like, if हिंदुस्तान के अंदर गाड़ी खरीदना होता है अपवर्ड मोबिलिटी का एक स्टेटस कि हम गाड़ी वाले हो गए हैं. हम गाड़ी वाले हो गए, हमारी गाड़ी की शक्ल देखो जरा. क्या गाड़ी है ये?
गाड़ी is not to go from A to B, तो नहीं तो फिर सब एक जेनरिक गाड़ी लेते हैं.
हाँ.
It is a status thing.
Yeah.
So Musk bhai played well to that status game and which also is having positive externalities on the world. Yeah.
Yeah, these guys are great. They fuck around, they work really hard, but they also share memes. Yeah. So it's very important that our new, like think about it, Musk, Silicon Valley, Rogan, a lot of these guys have walked over Hollywood or like for that matter, like abhi India mein itna nahi hai, but a lot of content creators, they're just like the seats of power in the world are shifting from glamour to, I don't know, downright authenticity. I don't have anything further clever to add here. But bro, it's been great having you on Dostcast. We've been jamming on for a lot of things for a while.
Cheers.
Yeah, and like 30% food, 70% other stuff.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
On Instagram @hustlingglutton and on Twitter @bantofu. Both those things I named when I had strong opinions about those things. Like I hated tofu, which I don't anymore, because hate is a strong word. And then I thought of myself as a hustler, but I don't associate that identity with myself. Gluten, still getting over that. Yeah.
हमारे पुराने जो वो होते हैं skeletons, they come to bite us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay, we should embrace it. But
Yeah.
I really enjoyed being here. Thank you for deeming me worthy of coming to Dostcast.
Bro, क्या ये बातें हैं?
No, genuinely, I really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you for getting me out of my comfort zone. I usually do I usually research a lot with my podcast, but you suggested that let's go completely.
अभी तो comments में claim आ जाएगा ना, झूठ कह रहे हैं.
क्या?
वो comments में आ जाएंगे ना claims की, ये unresearched दो लड़के बैठ के क्या बोल रहे हैं.
हाँ सामने, अरे वो सारी स्क्रिप्ट तो दिख रही है मुझे.
नहीं, it's been a blast, and I think that I would love to see where Naan Curry goes, especially when you make it a little more broader from the food. The food becomes your main thing.
Yeah.
Do you know about Mashable India?
Yes, I have heard of them.
Have you seen their podcast?
No, I haven't.
I think you will really enjoy that. Like, it is one of the few podcasts that has done wonderfully well with constraints. I don't even think they're on audio, but this guy called Siddharth, he's a very great host, by the way, very chatty. 20-30 minute ki ride hoti hai. So what he does is like, he gets super powerful celebrities by saying कि आपको ऑफिस हम छोड़ देंगे टाइप्स से, राइट? एंड ऑन द वे द टॉपिक इज कि तो आपका मुंबई का सफ़र कैसा रहा? देन पीपल टॉक अबाउट मैं इस रोड से यहाँ जाया करता था, इस रोड पे ये करा है, वो करा है, एंड देन इट गेट्स इनटू अदर डोमेन. सो आई थिंक दैट फूड is surprisingly, like it or not, a big into people's lives.
Absolutely.
What they eat, how they're seen eating, the things they talk about. Because if you interview Manu, you'll find that he eats like an athlete. No sugar, no chawal or kya. Which is why I think he's so mentally fit.
Right.
So best of luck for Naan Curry's next season. And thank you for being on Dostcast. We'll see you all in the next podcast.